Yeah, every 2 years, paramedics have to recertify. We're required to get so many hours of continuing education um, to recertify every 2 years.
Hello. Hello. The jury is back from their visit. So we're a little bit behind, but not just a few seconds. And I thought they were going to have lunch and then come back. I thought we had a little extra time. They're back. I'll give you guys a second to come in so we won't miss a beat. Literally only started like 3 minutes ago. So I hope everyone had a nice lunch break. And we'll see. I don't know. I made the mistake of going on social media to see what, people were saying about firefighter Katie McLaughlin's testimony. I thought it was a train wreck. I thought it didn't really matter that the photos didn't come in, because I think that Alan Jackson was able to get out what the photos showed. And the fact that she was in photos with Caitlin Albert, and the fact that, she doesn't know where any of these photos were taken or when. Meanwhile, if you showed my kids pictures of them posted anywhere, they would know exactly where they were at any time. So let's see, if she got out of high school 10 years ago, she probably is around, 28 years old? So I thought that was excellent testimony for the defense. Just my opinion. Thought it showed a bias. I mean, the other thing is, it's a small police department. It's a small town. Saying I went to high school with somebody named Caitlin Albert, I don't think was very helpful. It made her look a little bit disingenuous. That's my opinion. I felt bad for her. So that's what I think. What do you think? Everybody here says they think so too. Hi, Melissa Smith. Thanks for your super chat. Since moving courtrooms, I've been picturing jurors wearing chair pants to have more room in there. And now I'm imagining the jurors all wearing Jorf t-shirts when they return. That is a reference from the Amazon Prime show, Jury Duty. If you have not seen it, it's hilarious. It's kind of like a reality show where there's a guy who thinks he's on jury duty, and everybody in the courtroom, the jurors, the judge, the lawyers, everybody is an actor except for this one guy, but he thinks it's real. And it's so funny and heartwarming at the same time. So I love that show. I thought it was great. I actually auditioned for that show to play the plaintiff's attorney, and I'm bummed that I didn't book it because it was nominated for an Emmy. So I would have been able to go to the Emmys this year, which would have been really, really, really fun. Thanks, Melissa. All right, you guys, I'm waiting for a couple more people to get in here, but we might as well just start it because they are back. I guess they already had lunch, are they going to break again for lunch? That would be crazy. It is 12:50 p.m. here on the East Coast, which is the same coast time as Massachusetts. So here we go.
So with that, Mr. Lally, do you have a witness for us?
Yes, sir. The Commonwealth will call Mr. Gregory Woodbury to the stand.
Step up to the witness stand, please. Face that clerk and the jury. You solemnly swear the evidence of the court and jury in the case now hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I do. Thank you. Please take the seat.
I love the hear ye, hear ye. I don't hear that enough. Hear ye, hear
All right,
ye.
Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Greg Woodbury, Woodbury.
And what do you do for work, sir?
Lieutenant paramedic on the Canton Fire Department.
And how long have you been a member of the Canton Fire Department?
About 24 years now.
How long have you had the rank of lieutenant within the Canton Fire Department?
That's been 8 years now.
Now, prior to working with Canton Fire Department, what, if any, other work did you have within that same sort of field?
Prior to being on Canton Fire, I was an EMT paramedic in the North Shore area.
And if you could just, with regard to your working as a paramedic and a firefighter, specifically as far as being a paramedic, what, if any, sort of specialized training did you receive in regard to, or certifications did you receive in regard to being a paramedic?
So after I got my EMT, when I went to paramedic school, I went to Northeastern University. It was a 1-year full-time program.
And following, you successfully completed that program, is that correct?
Yes.
And is there any sort of continuing educational component or recertification component in regard to your paramedic certification?
Yeah, every 2 years, paramedics have to recertify. We're required to get so many hours of continuing education to recertify every 2 years.
If I could turn your attention to the date of January 28th, 2022 into January 29th, 2022. Were you working with the Canton Fire Department on that day?
Yes.
And what kind of shift were you working on that occasion, if you recall?
It was a 24-hour shift.
And 24-hour shift within the Canton Fire Department is what to what?
It's 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. the next day.
Now, turning your attention to the 29th, at what point do you sort of get up and start to begin your day at the fire station?
So a normal day, sorry, was that my beginning of the shift you're talking about, or the end of the shift?
Second day.
Okay, so the second part of the shift. Normally we get up at 6 for the officers, but I got up a little earlier then because we had the snowstorm coming in. So I had to make sure everything was shoveled. I think I got up about maybe 5, check the apron of the area in front of the station, and make sure the walkways were clear.
And when you got up to check that, what, if anything, did you?
It had been snowing. There was blizzard type conditions coming in. So it was a decent level of snowfall there. Let's see, maybe 2-3 inches on the ground at that time.
And as far as with reference to that, what, if anything, did you do to?
I think we can move quickly through this part of it. The cleaning the apron.
Okay.
Finally, Judge Cannoni's stepping up. Finally, Judge Cannoni stepping up to tell Mr. Lally to speed it up. She's like, enough with the cleaning of the apron, enough with the snow, enough with the, we've heard it already. So far, we've established that pretty much everyone here disagrees on the weather. Other than to say there was snow, everyone has disagreed on the amount of snow that there was, the wind speed. Some have said it was windy. So it's enough already. It's enough already with the snow. It's like he has the same script for every single damn witness that comes up here. And not only are we tired of hearing it, but so is the judge. Just snapped. That was a little snappish, right? We have previously confirmed that it is snowing. Okay, a little snappish.
Okay.
Okay.
As far as that particular date or that shift, how were you assigned within the firehouse?
I was lieutenant on engine 4.
And with respect to that, at some point shortly after 6 a.m., did you receive a dispatch to a call?
Yes. Yeah, we're dispatched to a call for a person in the snow.
And
Person in the snow, not officer
did you respond
down.
to that call, sir?
Person in the snow. That's what they were dispatched for, not officer down.
Yes, I did.
And you were assigned to the engine, is that correct?
Correct.
Who, if anyone else, was assigned to the engine that day with you on that shift?
So we had Caden McLaughlin and Frank Walsh were my 2 engine crew.
And in addition to yourself and your engine, what, if
Yep.
any, other sort of vehicles or apparatuses?
Ambulance 1 also responded with us. So that was Tony Flamati, Matt Kelly, and Tim Nuttall had also hopped on the ambulance. He was coming in for the shift in the morning, came in early to beat the storm.
And you recall where the call was in regard to what the address was?
I don't remember the address offhand, but it was not that far away in the district.
And when you arrived in the engine, when you first arrived on scene, as you were arriving on scene, what, if anything, did you sort of see as upon your arrival?
So the police were already there. We were approaching the scene. I could see several people off to the side in the yard doing something. So we went to investigate that.
You say off to the side, was that to your left, your right, or something?
So the way I was approaching the street, it was on the left-hand side.
And when you indicate you see some group of people, is that correct?
Yeah, there was a few people around. I don't remember exactly how many or what they were doing.
There's a, if you can see it, there's a mic right in front of him on his little podium there. And either he's not speaking into it, or it's not turned on, or it needs new batteries or something, but they need to really fix this.
And when you start to make your way over there, what, if any, when you arrive on scene,
Yep.
what is sort of the first thing you do?
So we went to evaluate the patient. So, I believe someone had started CPR prior to us getting there. So we went to continue that.
When you say someone had started CPR prior to you.
I don't remember the particular individual that was doing it as we arrived.
My only question, sir, so it's someone outside of your department, correct?
Yeah.
And do you know if it was one of the police officers or someone else?
I don't remember.
Can you guys hear it okay, or is it much
Obviously,
lower
you're
than my volume?
Dispatched in response to an unresponsive male, correct?
Yes.
And at the time that you're arriving on scene, you say you see sort of a cluster of people. Were you able to see that unresponsive male at that point?
Not in the vehicle, not until I exited the vehicle.
And at some point, much later or subsequently, did you come to learn the identity of the unresponsive male or the patient that you were involved in?
Afterwards, they told me yes. At the time, I did not know.
And what did you learn his name to be subsequently?
I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous and blanking right now.
Was it Mr. John O'Keefe?
Yes, correct.
And when you first came over to where Mr. O'Keefe was on the ground, is that correct?
Yes, he was.
What kind of position was his body in when you first observed?
He was lying supine on the ground, like on his back. He was parallel to the street, about 8 feet away from the snowbank.
And in reference to that, as far as the snow was concerned, what, if any snow did you observe on or around where you were?
He was covered with snow, and there was snow around the area.
To that, as far as the snow was concerned. And so from a treatment of Mr. O'Keefe as a patient,
Yep.
what is sort of the first thing that you did or
We started CPR, or CCR, sorry. Immediately, someone went to go get a board to get him onto that so we can get him onto the stretcher and move him to the ambulance. And then someone else is trying to get the backstory, trying to figure out the scenario that we're dealing with.
if I could just stop you for a moment. So
Yep.
you mentioned CCR, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the difference between CCR versus CPR?
CPR is cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So that is when you're helping someone breathe. CCR is when we first get to a scene. They changed the protocols a little while ago, so we don't have to give respirations right away. We can just do compressions. It's a little more effective to get the blood flowing quickly.
Thank you. As far as your involvement in patient care, sort of what
Yeah.
was that during that initial phase where Mr. O'Keefe was supine on the ground? What was your involvement in patient care at that point?
I was assisting with the CPR, making sure everyone else was doing their task. As lieutenant, I kind of got to manage the other people and make sure everyone's on target for what they're supposed to be doing.
And during that initial time that you're outside in the area where Mr. O'Keefe is on the ground, what, if any, observations did you make as far as injuries to Mr. O'Keefe at that time?
Outside on the ground, he was covered in snow.
Covered in
So
snow.
we're really not doing any sort of secondary survey initially. The primary concern is the primary survey, which is airway, breathing, circulation. He was not breathing. He had no pulse. So our primary concern is to get that going.
And at some point, are you able to get him from the ground to the back of the ambulance?
Yeah, we moved him onto a longboard, then moved him from the longboard onto the stretcher, and brought the stretcher over the ambulance and loaded him in there.
You mentioned at some point upon your sort of initial arrival at the patient that different people were tasked with different things. Right?
Yes.
And someone was tasked with trying to get sort of what you termed the backstory. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why,
Yeah.
why is that important?
So when you have someone unconscious, unresponsive, you want to know when they were last well, the last breathing, last seen, trying to figure out why someone is on the ground. There are different reasons of why they could be there, trying to figure that out. Normally people don't lay down in the snow. So trying to evaluate the reason the person was unconscious.
And so you're able to get him on, Mr. O'Keefe, onto a stretcher into the back of the ambulance, correct?
Yes.
Fair to say.
Hi, Nellie. Nellie says, did anybody else mention this guy being there? I don't remember him being mentioned. May I missed it? Yeah, the first time I heard his name was the other day. Somebody mentioned Lieutenant Woodbury or Greg Woodbury. So this is Greg Woodbury. I pinned it in the chat. Some people are coming in saying, oh, I missed it. Don't worry, we're a little bit behind. So I'll just give you guys a little minute to come in. So this is Lieutenant Greg Woodbury. He's with the Canton Fire Department. He's a lieutenant paramedic. And he was one of the 3 witnesses on the fire engine number 4. He was with Katie and Frank. And then we had the ambulance crew, which was Flamati Nuttall and Matt Kelly. So he is testifying now that he arrived on scene. He says John O'Keefe's body, or Officer O'Keefe's body, was covered in snow.
That the lighting.
But he's also testified so far that the most important thing, is to get the backstory. Why is the person there? When is the last time somebody saw them alive? When is the last time they were breathing? And he blanked on Officer O'Keefe's name when he was asked, did you ever learn the identity of the man in the snow? He said, I'm blanking from it. I don't remember. And he's nervous. And that's so far what we got from him. Thank you. Yeah, I saw that, Angela Marie. There's a fake account. Those are bot accounts. They come into my comments and they say, hey, I have some great financial advice for you. Please WhatsApp me at this number. So yeah, I already blocked that. But if you see anything that looks like it's supposed to be a comment from me, they stole my profile picture and they steal my name, but the username is a little bit different, and they come in and they are bots and they put in comments to try and redirect you to dial a number. It will never be me. Don't be fooled by it. Caught it right away. But thank you so very much, Angela. I appreciate that. All right, let's get back. He's only been on the stand for a few minutes, and I paused it so that we can all be together when this keeps going.
In the back of the ambulance is better than it was outside.
Correct.
And when you're in the back of the ambulance, are you able to then do or participate in that secondary survey?
Yeah, we started doing a secondary survey after we started getting good compressions going. Someone was working on the intubation, and then one of the procedures is to strip off the clothes and evaluate the person.
And if you recall, how were the clothes removed?
I don't recall exactly which method they used. Typically, we cut them off, but I'm not sure if they did that or they just pulled them off.
And what, if anything, do you recall as to Mr. O'Keefe's clothing and sort of what he was wearing when he was found?
I really wasn't paying attention to it. The primary concern is trying to revive him.
So to that secondary survey, as far as once you're in the back of the ambulance, what, if anything, did you observe as far as injuries on Mr. O'Keefe?
He had a hematoma or a bruising. The right eye was very prominent. There was some scratches on the right forearm. Was most of the external injuries we noted.
Scratches on the forearm. Some people said only the upper arm. Some people said forearm. So far, we know that there were scratches or lacerations on the arm that looked like furrows, according to the very descriptive testimony of Timothy Nuttall, who even went so far as to start scratching his arms to show what he thought furrows were. And what we have not heard anybody say yet, any of these first responders, is that he had a giant laceration on the back of his head. And I submit to you, the reason they did not notice that right away is because there was no giant pool of blood behind his head. As such, there would be had that injury happened outside. I submit to you. Draw your own conclusions, just like the jury will. They do not leave their common sense at the door.
And now, in addition, so as far as people on scene, there were a number of different firefighters from your
Yes.
department. You mentioned that the police were on scene when you arrived. Is that correct?
Correct.
So beyond the police and fire, what, if any, other individuals did you observe at some point when you were on scene?
There was some other civilians there. I really wasn't paying attention to them.
Okay. Sorry, Lally.
Now, with reference to that backstory that you were talking about, at any point in time, either outside of the ambulance or inside of the ambulance, who, if anyone, was tasked by you or anyone else to try and obtain that backstory?
I think Katie McLaughlin was the one that obtained the backstory.
And if
think.
you know, was
said,
there
I
any other
think.
conversation that you were present for between any of your other firefighters and any of those civilians?
That was primarily when she relayed to us the information that she had obtained. We were trying to figure out the scenario of why he was found unconscious, unresponsive.
Okay. So now right away, his testimony is what Katie told him. He didn't observe any conversations. He didn't overhear any conversations between any of the civilian witnesses. In fact, he said, I wasn't paying attention to them. Okay. This should be short, but you know Lally, he likes to make a salad.
Let me ask you this way. So as far as arrival at the patient when he's on the ground,
Yep.
who gets there first? You and the other individuals in the engine, or the firefighters in the ambulance?
We both respond from the same station at the same time. The engine's in the front, the ambulance usually in the rear. So I believe we pulled over, the ambulance pulled over at the same time as us. I believe C5 went as well, which is the captain. He was also responding with us.
Now, as far as the person that Firefighter McLaughlin spoke to, what, if anything, did you know about that person at that time?
At that time, I knew nothing. I knew there was someone that had been with him. She relayed the information of what she had heard to us.
And the information that Firefighter McLaughlin, without reference to what it was, but the information that Firefighter McLaughlin was able to obtain, did she communicate that to you and the other firefighters in the ambulance?
Yes. Yeah, she came in the ambulance, told us what she had heard.
Hi, Olivia.
As far as the information that Firefighter McLaughlin provided, did that comport with what you were observing as far as injuries to Mr. O'Keefe?
Objection.
Yes. thank you.
Sustained.
Hearsay.
You can lay a foundation if
Now, as far as, again, the injuries that you observed to Mr. O'Keefe in the back of the ambulance were what?
It was the bruising of the right eye and the scratches on the forearm.
And what, if anything, did Firefighter McLaughlin indicate to you had been told to her?
That someone said she had hit him, and he was last seen.
Objection. Move to strike.
sustained, that will be stricken.
May we approach them?
Okay.
So he's saying that Katie told him. I'm going to rewind that just a second to see exactly what he said.
May we approach them?
Okay.
It was the bruising of the right eye and the scratches on the forearm.
Notice how every first responder is really only mentioning the one eye. And so many people were opining before we haven't seen the autopsy report. We haven't seen any of the medical records that both eyes looked very swollen. In fact, Paul O'Keefe testified that when he went to see his brother in the hospital, that it looked like there were ping pong balls under both of his eyes. But all of the first responders are only saying the right eye. So that's interesting to me. If he had this massive laceration on the back of his head, which caused skull fractures, multiple skull fractures, is the only thing we know about from the court documents we could obtain. A lot of people say that would cause swelling in both eyes because of the skull fractures. And they're all talking about a right eye. So that seems to me more like maybe something that happened in a fight. I don't know. That's my opinion.
And what, if anything, did firefighter McLaughlin indicate to you what had been told to her?
That someone said she had hit him.
Someone
and he
said
was
she
last
hit him.
seen.
Objection. Move to strike.
Sustained. That will be stricken.
May we approach them?
Okay.
And was last seen. Okay. Well, she's going to say, oh, was last seen what? At the waterfall bar? No, that's like hearsay. It's Paul O'Keefe and his wife, Erin. They've both already testified. In my opinion, I thought they testified very favorably for the defense. This is Officer John O'Keefe's dad, who seems very just sad, broken down, lethargic. A lot of people thought he was sleeping during some of the testimony. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if he has any medical conditions. I should have made a fan emoji. I thought about it. They're on lunch until 2. What? Did she just say that?
Ready to start right at 2 o'clock. We will take a look and make sure that your lunch is here before.
So the jury gets free lunch every day.
Always
They,
try and check and make sure that your lunch is here before we take a break. I'm told that it is. So we will take a lunch break. We'll see everybody here, ready to start right at 2 o'clock.
that was such a complete and total waste of time. Why didn't they just let them eat? I mean, that was ridiculous, in my opinion. All right, we'll come back at 2 o'clock for them. But now we have time to go to some questions from earlier because there were so many questions that we couldn't get to. But wasn't that fun doing a stream with Brandy this morning? Oh, I was doing a little yoga, so I wasn't really ready to come on here, as you can see. Let's go to some questions, shall we? And super chats. Joanna, thank you so much for your super sticker. And Joanna, and another one says, I don't feel bad for anybody willing to lie and argue and fight to lock up an innocent woman. I do not think that, I mean, my initial impressions of Greg Woodbury on the stand, who is a lieutenant paramedic, I don't think you probably weren't talking about him, but he seems to me to be credible so far and nervous. And I don't think he's going to be lying for anybody, but you know, we'll see. He's only testifying as to what Katie McLaughlin told him. So that's interesting. Bay Harbor Beauty, thanks for your super chat. Defense got the photos of McLaughlin from Facebook, which have dates. Why couldn't he bring up the dates when he crossed catching her in a lie? Well, just because it was posted on a certain day doesn't necessarily mean it was taken on a certain day, right? So we would need to have somebody authenticate those photos, perhaps the person who took the photos, to say when they were taken. That's my photo. It was taken on this day. So I disagree with that ruling. I think those photos should have been allowed to come in. I don't think that Rule 14 in Massachusetts provides that they must turn over impeachment evidence, which he clearly said that it was, and which I said that it was, and that was my opinion while this objection was being made. They're out there and they've been out there. And listen, if the Commonwealth did not do its due diligence during the course of this trial, it was out there. It's been out there for a year. So I think that's a bit of a disingenuous argument for them. Lisa, do you think the jury can hear the sidebars? No, I don't think they can. Usually they put on a white noise machine when sidebars are happening. We have the court order said that the pool camera had to shut off its microphone during sidebar. So I don't know exactly what they're doing in there. Anybody who has been in the courtroom can let us know. Usually there's a white noise machine that's put on. You would think New England had never seen snow before, says Joanna. Yeah, you would think that, right? It's a little bit crazy. But yeah, there's a lot of weather testimony, a lot more weather testimony than I think that we need. But it's almost like I said before, like he's got the same exact script for all of the witnesses that are coming in. And if you guys are tired of hearing about it, you can pretty much bet that the jury is tired of hearing about it too. Thank you so much to Roxanne for your Cash App. to me and Brandy both. That was so nice. I didn't get to address these during the earlier stream that I did with Brandy Churchwell of the 13th Juror podcast. So thank you so very much. And Nurse Jones also, who sent a Venmo and says, thank you for all your hard work and time spent explaining this craziness to me and us. And that is very kind of you. Thank you so much, Nurse Jones. We are also Justin. Thank you so much, Justin, who says, thanks for giving us so much time to give us insight. And Kathy, thank you so much. Says, thanks for your time. You're the best and most informative streamer. Thank you so much. I have this frog in my throat that will not go away. And I even tried like doing vocal exercises and a whole bunch of but there's so much pollen outside that my car is covered in green stuff. And Maureen Francis says, for the best trial coverage around. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is my first gavel to gavel experience. So this is very exciting. I only started this channel in July of 2023. So I'm here for it. We've been covering this trial for so long that there was no way that I could not do this with you, gavel to gavel, so that we could all assure ourselves that we have not been crazy this entire time while we've been looking at the evidence and looking at all the court documents and dissecting just about everything. Yeah, Classy Lassie from Tallahassee. What about the gash at the back of his head? Not one first responder has yet seen it or talked about it. Am I wrong? We've got, what was Frank's last name? What was Frank's last name? Because I think he did testify already, right? We have already heard from, this is the third person who was on the end on the fire truck. What's Frank's name? You know what? I probably have it in my banners, maybe. Francis Walsh. Okay, that's Francis Walsh. So we heard about Frank. Wait, unless Francis Walsh, I have him with Canton Fire Department. Wait. Yep. Okay. So they must be calling him Frank now to confuse us. They're trying to confuse us. We've already heard from Francis Walsh, who was on the fire truck with Katie, who we've already heard from, and this witness who's currently sitting on the stand, Greg Woodbury. Then we know that there was another first responder team on an ambulance, and that was Flamati, Nuttall, and Matt Kelly. So these are the 6 witnesses that were tasked with saving the life of Officer John O'Keefe. That was their primary responsibility, their primary task, their primary goal. Their job at this scene was not to figure out what happened. They're not there for scene investigation. They are there to save a life. And you heard at least one witness testify that he thought that this arrest, this cardiac arrest, not to be confused with a law enforcement arrest, was viable, that they thought that they could possibly save him. So that's where the focus was for them. That's where the focus should have been for them. And their job was not to be collecting witness statements and for figuring out what happened and for trying to preserve a crime scene. They were there to save a life. That is what they do. EMTs, paramedics, firefighters, save people. They're not there to investigate how this happened. So the fact that they called all 6 of them to say that that's what they were there to do. And so far, there's only one, and that's Katie, who we've learned has a personal relationship with Caitlin Albert, who lived at 34 Fairview, although she tried to minimize it and just say, oh, I went to high school with a girl named Caitlin Albert. There's got to be more to that story, and I'm sure the defense has it, whatever that is. And I think she tried to minimize it. I think the jury saw that. Alan Jackson asked her if there were pictures of her with Caitlin Albert at the beach in bathing suits, drinking beers. And she said, yeah. And she had to. So I don't know that all of this testimony or any of this testimony really has been helpful to the prosecution. I'm sure that people are going to say that they think that Katie McLaughlin was very, very credible and that she said, hit him. But again, did anybody follow up and say, I hit him with what? And interesting. Israel Barry says the jury definitely saw the nose growing. Yeah, she called them acquaintances, right? It's not really acquaintances. It's just we're not friends. I would just say acquaintances. I have 500 Facebook friends, and I'm really only friends with 10 of them. 10 of them. Yeah, people are saying she has Caitlin on her Venmo too. I think there's a setting on Venmo, Rogue Townie, where you can, all of your contacts can be imported to Venmo. So she's just an acquaintance, and yet she probably has her as a contact in her phone. That's interesting. I think it can auto-populate your contacts, or maybe even your Facebook contacts. And it was funny how she was like, I don't know if this is from Facebook, really. Really? You're in your 20s and you don't know what a Facebook pull looks like? I didn't buy that either. Do you think the jury did? Yeah, at first Kevin says tried saying somebody named Caitlin. Yeah, I went to high school with someone named Caitlin. Oh, look. Raina, Caitlin Albert ran track with Katie McLaughlin. Check the yearbooks. I don't have the yearbooks in my possession, but I bet you do. I bet you do. I mean, if you live in Canton, you probably know, right? Which is why they should have stuck to their jobs and not tried to get involved in the other stuff. They sat around the firehouse gossiping about, yes, thank you, Magnolia Gypsy, because I was going to bring this up too. He just testified they all work out at the same house. They all work out at the same station house. The ambulance and the fire department. And if you know any firefighters, and I do, some of my very best friends are firefighters who dedicate their lives to saving people. And it's a tough job. And I love them all so very much. They spend a lot of time in that firehouse. They make meals for each other. They sleep there on 24s. They have beds in there. They become very, very close. I would submit to you that they may be closer to the people that they work with than members of their own families. And Scott, I don't know if you're in the chat right now, but Scott, I know you were a long time firefighter. Here on Long Island, we have mostly volunteer firefighter companies, unlike FDNY. So most of the firefighters and these stations here on the island are volleys, and they dedicate their lives to this. I mean, imagine volunteering to do that job. So, yeah, very, very tight, I think. Scott, I don't know if you're here. Maybe you're out getting lunch. Thank you, Little Cupcake, for welcoming back all the little cupcakes. Angel Fire says, Chris Albert told her to go talk to Proctor. Actually, I think they said it was Kevin Albert, right? So for those just joining who are not aware of all of the twisted family ties in Canton, Brian Albert, whose house it was, is married to Nicole. Nicole Albert is sisters with Jennifer McCabe. Brian Albert, I believe there are 6 boys in the Albert family. His brother Chris is a town selectman. Chris and Julie Albert are the parents of Colin Albert, who they say was not in the house at the time that John O'Keefe did not come into the house. Julie Albert is the one who we found was texting with Michael Proctor's sister the day that Karen Reed was first brought into court. And Julie Albert texted Michael Proctor's sister, I believe her name is Courtney, tell your brother that when all this is over, I want to get him a thank you gift. To which Michael Proctor replied to his sister, tell her to get my wife a gift instead. So this becomes very, very twisted. One of the other 6 brothers is Kevin Albert, who is or was then with the Canton PD. He was a Canton police officer. So right away, the Canton Police Department, who we've heard from testimony and from going through all the documents like we have, was the first law enforcement department to arrive on scene, the Canton Police Department. When it was found out that it was Brian Albert's house, who is a brother, and also he's a Boston police officer, of Kevin Albert, who's a member of the Canton Police Department. Are you all following me? It is said that the Canton Police Department was immediately conflicted out of this case, and that is when Massachusetts State Police became involved. Massachusetts State Police is assigned to the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, so there's a relationship there. And there is a bro code, says Gary Gandhi. There's a bro code. Some people have said, and it is true, that all death investigations go to Massachusetts State Police. But I submit to you that MSP, or at least Proctor, was notified and brought into this case before Officer O'Keefe was pronounced dead at 7:50 a.m. So what we learned from Katie McLaughlin's testimony is that Kevin Albert facilitated the meeting the next day between Katie McLaughlin and Trooper Proctor for an interview. So it gets more and more and more. I mean, at least the appearance of impropriety, right? Because Anthony Flamati, I think, testified that his statement was not until sometime around February 8th. And I don't have a spreadsheet, I don't have my notes up, but Anthony Flamati was not interviewed until something like February 8th. And yet, Katie McLaughlin was interviewed the very next day. Did they think she was a friendly? I don't know. I feel bad for the girl. I feel bad for her being dragged into this. This is probably the last place she wanted to be. The last thing she wanted to be, to have to come on a stand and testify in this case that is, I would submit to you, one of the most notorious cases that Massachusetts has ever seen outside of Whitey Bulger and Sacco and Vanzetti. Can you think of any others? Thank you, Luza, for your super chat. Lovely streaming with you. Thank you for all your information breakdowns. Your orchid looks beautiful. Thank you. You know what I do is I keep them until they die and then I get rid of them. Some people say you can bring them back, but I don't know. I don't have patience for that. I don't know if it's even possible to bring them back. It says you're only supposed to give them 3 ice cubes a week or something, and I can deal with that. I do not have a green thumb. Not great with keeping plants alive, but that I can do. 3 ice cubes a week, I can do. Liz Swift, thanks for your super chat. Do the feds have Caitlin Albert's phone records? Maybe phone calls between Caitlin and KDM. That is very possible. Caitlin is on the witness list, so she will be called to the stand. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to clean up some stuff. They're going to ask Caitlin about her relationship to Katie McLaughlin, because remember, Caitlin was in the house that night at the after party at 34 Fairview. She was also at the Waterfall bar earlier in the evening with her mother and her boyfriend. So, Teresa, thanks for your super chat. This is literally insane. Everyone in the town knows the Alberts. Canton Fire Department and Canton PD all know each other. This corruption goes high. We need to expose the root. This goes hand in hand with Sandra Birchmore. I have not covered that case yet, but a lot of you have pointed that out to me. A lot of you have pointed it out. For those just joining, the court came on for a few minutes to show us the testimony, a little bit of testimony anyway, from Lieutenant Paramedic Greg Woodbury, who responded with Katie and Francis Walsh, who they're calling Frank to confuse us, on the fire truck, or fire engine 3. Engine 3, engine 4. It's engine 4. But yet, nobody in the house woke up inside the house, even though there was a fire truck outside, an ambulance, flashing lights. We saw the flashing lights because we saw the dash cam footage. Yes, thank you, Aaron Hernandez, as well. Aaron Hernandez had similar attention on his trial. Thanks, Trish Rogers, for your super chat and for letting me know that. I appreciate it. Yeah, kind of crazy. I want to pull something up for you while we're here. I want to pull up the floor plan of 34 Fairview so we can take a look at it, see where the master bedroom was in relation to the house, because the jury just got a chance to go to the house, but we didn't. So I think that we should go to the house right now and take a look at that floor plan. Because it just happens to be up on Zillow. Let's see. All right. Okay. Here's the floor plan for 34 Fairview. This is from the Zillow listing. Here's the front of the house, as you can see. Somebody sent me a picture of the house the other day. It shows it does not have a curb there. So let's pay special attention to the fact that I gotta make it bigger on my screen. Okay, so here's the, can you see my cursor on the screen? I can't see it on my screen here, but if you look at this top picture, you can see the foyer in the center. This is the first floor right here at the top of your screen. I'll make it bigger. As big as it goes? Maybe not. Okay. So you're going to hear a lot of testimony about people looking out the windows. There are two doors to the front of this house. One is in the center of the house, which we can see from the street, which goes into a foyer. To the left, there's a study. Come here, straight through, and these are the basement stairs. Oh, now we can see my cursor a little bit, little hand there. The other door, which looks like the side door here, is right here to the right of the front door as you're looking at the house. That goes directly into the living room and then back to a 3-season room or like a porch. And there's a back deck over here. Okay. The kitchen is all the way in the back of the house. So I remember reading witness statements with you that somebody was in the kitchen looking through a window. I'm not frozen. If you think I'm frozen, all you need to do is just refresh your browser, and that should help you. I don't think I'm frozen. I don't appear frozen to myself. The internet is probably breaking right now. YouTube is probably breaking right now because of all this coverage on this trial. So if you do have issues, just go out, come back in. We will miss you while you're gone, but certainly you can rewind and put us on. I already talk fast, so if you try and put me on double speed, you're just going to go crazy probably. Some people are saying, yeah, that the dog definitely should have been barking. Those who know that Chloe, their pet of 9 or 7 years, was rehomed right around the same time that the grand jury was hearing this case. And right around the same time that the defense was looking for records for Chloe to see if she had ever bitten anyone before. Here you will see is the what they're calling the third floor on this floor plan. But you can see that the master bedroom is here on the left with its windows facing the front lawn. I sound like an alien at 2 times speed. That's funny. I already barely have a voice, so I can't even imagine. So the master bedroom is right here, and here are the windows facing the street. And if Officer O'Keefe's body was found on that side of the house on the front lawn, does it strain credulity for you that they would not have seen all of those flashing lights and not heard a woman screaming bloody murder on the front lawn and all of that police activity outside? And you're going to see when we get to Jen McCabe's testimony and her phone records. Her phone records are going to show 2 calls to her sister, Nicole, who was inside the house, allegedly sleeping in the master bedroom at the time that all of this was going on. And her statement says that by the time she got downstairs, everyone had gone and nobody was there. What say you? What say you? So this is the primary bedroom because it's got a huge walk-in closet and bath. I'm going to assume that's where they were sleeping or say they were sleeping. Then if you notice the basement, the stairs right here, if you were to come in this door, you could go right into the basement stairs. When you come down the basement stairs, there's a little hall, big exercise room, a bonus room, a bathroom. And this is probably where they have their boiler and their hot water heater and all of that kind of things and stuff. Now, let's go back to the photos of the house. Here's a picture of the weight room in the basement. And this is from when the house was put up for sale after the incident. So these are the realtor photos. This is the backyard. They have a pool in the backyard. There's a lot of talk about somebody filling up a pool. It was not this house that the pool was filled up at that I'm aware of. It was one of the relatives' houses who filled up their pool with concrete. Allegedly. Allegedly. Here's the backyard. It looks like a very big backyard in the photos, but the jury went there. I don't know if they got to look at the backyard, though. You could see this is the door out to the back. There's a big area of blacktop right here on the right-hand side. There's the pool when it's in operation. And let's look at the picture, the front of the house. Here's the front of the house. Here's the master bedroom right here. Here's where the body was found, a little bit further to the left. And they're going to notice too that a lot of you have told me who live in the neighborhood that this front yard is a lot smaller than it appears in photos. A lot smaller. So here's the front door that we saw on the floor plan. Here's the side door. It's been said that they use the side door. That's the door that they use. Interesting, right? Let's say you. Somebody says it's so tiny. Here's the front hall. Living room. This is what they're calling the 3-season room. Kitchen. Most people hang out at parties in the kitchen. I don't know. Is it just me or most people hang out at parties in the kitchen? Did you notice the bulkhead also in the photo of the backyard? Let's go back to that. Bulkhead. Where's their bulkhead? Smash that like button, folks. Lally keeps showing long shots with snow. Yeah. Also, there's a big, I don't know, what is this over here? It's like a big rock. Is it a pet cemetery? Anybody know? Always the kitchen. It's a blizzard outside. Yeah, people are mostly in the kitchen. Yeah, the weight room. We saw the weight room. And here's the kitchen. Again, if you didn't see. They're coming in this side door. Everyone uses this side door. Apparently goes right into that living room. Come right into the kitchen. If the party's going on back here, how is everybody looking out the window and seeing Karen's car? Does that make sense to you? Here's the windows they would have been needed to have been looking at, right? Either in the foyer or the dining. This is the dining room. Nobody's hanging out in the dining room, I submit to you. And if they're looking out these windows over here, what can you really see from the living room next to this door? Because it would block your view of somebody being over here, I think. I don't know. Or are they in the study, which is over here? This is the study. It's like a game of Clue. Need a candlestick, Mrs. Peacock, Colonel Mustard in the living room, Colonel Mustard in the study with the candlestick, right? It's the front entry of that's the door they don't use, right? So this to the left would be that study that they're talking about. Let's see if we can find those chairs again. This would be in the back of the house because you can see the backyard. 3-season room, the kitchen where everybody, I would submit, are likely coming out, hanging out, I mean. Bathroom, laundry room. I don't know if that's the master, but it could be. And if it is the master, then these 2 windows are facing the front of the house. Look, you can see the house across the street through these windows, right? So they're sleeping right there. Their head is up against this wall. If these pictures are accurate, these are the Zillow pictures. And these windows are facing exactly where all of those flashing lights would have been. Kids' bedrooms. This looks like it's probably the bonus room in the basement. And this looks like the weight room. And this looks like something very sharp. I'd like to know the measurement of this thing here in case, what if somebody fell backwards on that and hit their head? I'm just saying. I don't know. There's that big rock again from another view. Interesting. Ann B says, nobody over 45 sleeps solidly anyway. So let's see. See when it was sold. Realtor's name was Eric Hanlon. House was built in 1974, has no air conditioning. It's on 0.77 acres. Sold April 10th of 2023 for $905,000. It was first listed for sale November of 2022, which was less than a year after Officer O'Keefe's death. And it looks like they bought it in 2010, which answers for $500,000. So that answers my question as to whether they lived there during the high school years, because didn't Katie McLaughlin say she graduated from high school in, did you say 2014 or 2016? Or did was she even asked on the record? I think she was. I have so many notes already from this trial, you guys, that it is insane. And I hate flipping these papers near the mic because I know how annoying that sound is. 2014 or 2016 was the year that she graduated from high school. 2014. Okay. So if they bought this house in 2010, but people are saying this house has been in the family for generations. And you guys who live there know. So I'm going to defer to you on that. Let's see, 144. All right, so they're going to be coming back to court soon. I'm wondering if Court TV has better audio. TV. They still have their audio on, but there's nothing happening. It just says they're on a break. Anybody who's been flipping around to stations, can you tell me if you think Court TV has better audio? I could hear somebody in the background going, have you been watching the trial? On Court TV, that's kind of weird. Like they turned off the video, but not the audio. And you could hear like cars revving up in the background. That's weird. We were watching NBC 10. The audio wasn't that great. Patriot says, your audio is the best because your audio has your voice and your commentary. Thank you. Thank you so very much. They said the street is very narrow, right? And you have to say, does it strain credulity that their theory has become, she backed up at 60 feet or 62 feet. I thought I heard 60, but a lot of people are saying 62, like Vinny, at 24.2 miles an hour and in reverse and backed into him. So I don't know. Seems whack to me. They're on lunch until 2, so they're coming back at 2, they say. Audio is better on Court TV, says Cindy. All right, we will flip over to Court TV for the return. They come in at 2 o'clock. That's where we will go. I'll just cue it up here. So we have it ready. Oh, Lori, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. I appreciate you so much. To be opted in to receiving a gift membership, you need to be opted in. You need to do something with the 3 dots on the side, and it'll opt you in. And then if you're participating in the chat, YouTube distributes them randomly. I have no control over who gets them, but Lorna became a new member, so welcome. And Elf gifted a membership. Thanks, Elf. Trish, yep, we talked about Aaron Hernandez already. That was you. And Ms. Bell, thanks for the super chat. Officer Saroff lost me, and it's getting worse for the CW. Yeah, having him on at the beginning of the case was an interesting decision. I thought he tanked it. I didn't think it could get worse, but it has been getting worse, in my opinion. Thank you, Steve Trammell. Google Maps Street View is from April of 2022, says Steve. Jimmy. See, you weren't blocked, Jimmy. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for the super chat. Great work listening. Professor Plum in the basement with the barbell. The barbell. Yeah, I mean, what are you guys thinking so far? How do you guys think it's going for the Commonwealth? Don't go out there and read other comments on other streams, because you will be a little bit surprised, I think, by what you're seeing. It's almost as if we're watching a different trial. Hi, Cam. Thanks for your super chat. As a third-year law student, this judge is trying to not let the stage get destroyed with the truth. Defense had Venmo records and evidence to impeach her testimony. Shaking my head. The Commonwealth shouldn't have called her. Yeah. It's like, you don't need all of these witnesses to testify. Brandy Churchwell, who was on with me this morning, counted and said there were 76 witnesses listed in Lally's opening. First of all, it's ridiculous. And if you're on the moot court team or the mock trial team, you're learning how to become a trial lawyer, because it's something they really don't teach you in law school unless you take certain classes, or if you're on the mock trial team. There was no reason for him to mention all of those names. The only thing it did was confuse the jury. He could have talked about 1, 2, or 3 players and, said, she's a murderer. She did this. You're going to hear why. She backed up into him at 60 miles an hour or 60 feet at 24.2 miles an hour. She did this. She's to blame. She intended to do it. And it would have been a better opening than mentioning 76 people, all out of order, zero cohesiveness, zero passion. I submit to you, my new friend, Cam, that as a third-year law student, you probably could have crafted and delivered a better opening than that. That is one thing that everyone who's commentating on this trial seems to agree on, is that is one of the worst openings they've ever heard. This is a murder case. This is a case that can make or break a career. Remember what happened during OJ with Marsha Clark? And, the lawyers have made their careers on winning cases, or even just performing on TV for cases. And careers have also been destroyed. So I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Curious. Hi, K-Pick. I think Lally's trying to get a whole bunch of nothing, meaning they got something theory, like if they present a whole bunch of pointless testimony, it looks like the quantity or the quality. Yeah. Or they're hoping the jury's just going to forget all of this testimony, but they're taking notes. So I don't understand. The only place they were not allowed to take notes was during the openings and during the site visit. So call me crazy. I mean, I've been called far worse, especially during my coverage of this case, but I'm not seeing that it's helpful to him. I'm just not. Let me know what you think. Cindy says, I pray one of the jurors that tried to drive fast backwards. It's difficult, even sober. Like, what? Now Karen's Mario Andretti. I mean, the people shouting at her outside the courthouse, calling her a cop killer, is kind of gross. But yeah, now is she Mario Andretti, the cop killer? And if she said, I hit him, and then as that one witness testified, Flamati, says that he told the hospital That she hit him with her car, which was the first time he ever uttered that words out loud or to anyone, was when he was sitting on the stand. And then he admitted that was the first time he ever told anybody that. Why would they let her leave the scene? It strains credulity to me. Did anyone say she smelled like alcohol while they were talking to her? Well, no, they didn't ask. That's what Flamati said. No, they didn't ask. They didn't ask, so I didn't say. Nobody asked me. Well, who examined you during the grand jury, during your grand jury testimony? Well, Mr. Lally did. Oh, so Mr. Lally didn't ask? No. So even so, though Mr. Lally didn't ask you during your grand jury testimony, isn't it true that you never told anyone that? Not in your report, no, right? No, it wasn't in my report. It's not in the hospital records, is it? Well, I don't really know what they put in their hospital records. It's just my duty with the patient ends at the handover. Am I watching a different trial than some of these people out there? Sometimes I think I am. Sometimes I think I'm in a black hole. It's back on. I'm on court TV, and so far they don't have their camera up yet. Maybe the sound is up. I mean, it's not coming on yet, but I'll put it up for you if you're getting nervous. My volume's on, so I'm not hearing anything yet. Thanks, Irene, for becoming a new member. Welcome. Oh, welcome very much. Cam, our third year law student. Where do you go to law school, Cam? Says, thanks for your super chat again. That is what happens when you don't have a case and Lally is forced to prosecute because elected. He knows she's innocent. Look how red his face was during her redirect. He read from a notepad in his opening. Yeah, that's never a good look. It's never a good look, in my opinion. You should know your opening like the back of your hand. It should be rehearsed. And the reason he didn't know it is because he mentioned so many characters. So many characters. Mandy says they're just gaslighting. Yeah, it could be. A lot of people think they're being gaslit or tortured on social, even for just talking about this case. So you'll notice there have not been a lot of people talking about this case consistently until now. And a lot of people didn't want to touch it, I think, and rightly so. Listen, what's happened to a lot of people who have tried to cover this case is beyond the pale and gross, disgusting. And I have firsthand knowledge of that. So if you know, you know. I want my vintage says, I bet the defense is going to start objecting a lot more. Here's the fan. We're getting close. They're so salacious on here. Killer or cover up. Killer or cover up murder trial. I can't hear it yet. Norman, I tried watching Court TV this morning and they were showing and commenting only on, I hit them, but not commenting on impeachment by defense. I know, I feel like we're watching two different trials. Trials. Crime Sleuthin', did you have a super chat up? Oh no, let me go back and find it. I'll find it in the live. Hold on. I might have deleted something by mistake. Did I? Crime Sleuthin', thank you so much for the super chat. If you just put your question back into the chat right now, I'll pull it up. I apologize. Sometimes it's so fast and then I delete things by mistake and I apologize. Oh no, here it is. Crime Sleuthin' says, Law and Crime is playing footage of the house and the jury tour. Oh, that's interesting. Thank you for that. Although we can't really go back now, but that's interesting that they got there and they were able to show it. And maybe next break we can go back and show their replay. NBC 10 does not have camera up at all right now. I don't think. No, they don't. So we're looking at the fan. If you can rewind through the line, yeah, well, you can, but I'm not a cupcake. I can't please everyone. This is what we're doing right now. We can go back and watch that in a little bit. And if you're, it's not really, if somebody else is watching it and you want to go watch it, that's great. But to like redirect people away from here, it's not like a really cool thing to do. Just saying. I mean, I see law and crime, but I don't see anything about the jury tour. Oh, wait, unless they did it like earlier before lunch. I don't see it unless they have it on their regular station. It's not on the YouTube that I can tell. Live now. What is this? That says they want payment to watch it. I don't know. It's too confusing. It is too confusing. Violet Lotus, did Jackson do a good job of making Witness Katie look like a McAlbert? I thought he showed her bias, even though he wasn't allowed to show those pictures, in my opinion. I thought so. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Pila's mom, can the DA end this trial? Or are we too far into the game? I mean, they could drop the charges at any point. I don't think they're gonna. They're way too invested in this. At this point, it's about saving face, in my opinion, too. So I don't know. I don't know. What is the what if any toll at today? I don't know, but I did make a new emoji that says what if any. So if the members want to put that in the chat, it's green. It's a green box that says what if any. Thanks, Irene, for your super chat. No sirens today. Were all the units in the jury view? That's interesting, KPT. That is very interesting. Oh, no, not, well, Cooper, no, you didn't mean to redirect. I know you said somebody else had it up, a different creator, not a mainstream channel. And I don't think that was even you. Where you should stream from there at lunch, and you are the only one streaming that I follow. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much. But sometimes, and I don't think it was you, sometimes people will be like, oh, so-and-so does it better. And it's like they just come in there here just to do it, just to redirect people away. And it's kind of like not a cool thing to do. So that's my opinion. I wouldn't do that on someone else's stream, or I wouldn't want anybody of my followers to go onto someone else's stream who's covering this and say, oh, so-and-so does it better. I don't know. It's just not a good look, in my opinion. You think Bev bit off more than she can chew? Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy. Asazan, I cannot wait for Proctor's cross. I know. I can't wait for his testimony. I can't wait for his cross. I can't wait for Jen McCabe's testimony. Shannon says, not very classy of them. No, it's not. But people do that. They're like, oh, I like so-and-so's coverage better. It's like, okay. Did you really need to stop and leave a comment under my video that you like? So good, then go watch them. You're not hurting my feelings. It's like, okay. Thanks, Patty. Thanks for thinking I'm the best. I love it. Just Chrissy says, because we're classy here. Proctor is a creepy name, Sylvia. And also Sylvia Proctor was like one of the main people or characters, right? During the Salem witch trials. Isn't that true? Somebody Proctor was like a major player in the Salem witch trials. I think it was. Thanks on top for your super sticker. I appreciate you. Always coming in. Oh, Lori, you gifted 5 memberships. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Lorna becoming a member, and Elf. We went through these earlier before, but I'm giving you all the more credit. More credit for everyone. Thank you, Joe, for your Venmo. It says great coverage on YouTube. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate you. And for Kiana, who bought me a matcha latte, thank you so much. She says, thanks for covering this trial. I have so much anxiety about this and a knot in my stomach. For Karen, I'm so scared the jury is going to somehow find her guilty. Such a helpless feeling. Can anybody relate? Anybody in the chat relate? Help comfort Kiara? Because I think she feels the way a lot of you feel. You know? Thanks, Angela, for sending me that email. That's weird because their @name is similar to mine. So I don't know what that's about. But those bots get out there and then they start those weird comments about, hey, you should go on my WhatsApp and I'll teach you how to make money. So don't anybody fall for that stuff. It's not me, but they sort of take my profile picture and then they find a similar username and then they comment on my videos so that everyone who's already commented will see that, and don't fall for it. You guys don't fall for it. I know that you guys are smarter than that and you will not. Mulaney is not McAlbert. No, I thought Mulaney's testimony was incredibly credible. And I think that this witness that we're going to see right now is incredibly credible. And I think he's already said he didn't hear anything directly. He only heard what Katie told him. Just Chrissy says, I'm your token Salem witch here. Oh, yeah? SMM is from Salem, Mass. Amy says, yes, it gives me anxiety. Maggie May, your coverage is great and no curse words, so I can have it on in my office at work. Yay. Do you ever go into like a store, like at the mall, and they have like horrific music playing with like really disgusting language in it? And I'm like, who's in charge of the music here? Like, is this what you want your customers to hear? It's crazy to me. Nicole White says, John and Elizabeth Proctor have graves in front together with the other 1692 Salem witches. Oh, that's interesting. John and Elizabeth Proctor. And isn't his wife's name Elizabeth? Isn't Trooper Michael Proctor's name Elizabeth? I think they call her Lizzie, but I mean, did she marry him just so she could get that name? And it would be like cool to have. I don't know. I don't know. Lisa, have you ever seen a case where so much exculpatory evidence was ignored? Blood, belt, dog, video? I mean, we've watched a lot of trials. I've watched a lot of trials, but let's see where the belt is. Let's see where the blood is. Let's see where the dog is. You know, the defense has not put on their case yet. So it's all going to come out. It's all going to come out. So we're going to see what the jury thinks about it. Canton is the modern day Salem, says Janie. And then none of your business is coming in. Are witches real? Some people might think so. Some people might think so. There are people who are Wiccan. I mean, is that the same thing or is that totally different? Boston Skippa. I think it's wild that no one has reported seeing a large amount of blood at the scene. Blood doesn't disappear with a head wound, I know. And there's been, well, we haven't seen any testimony on it yet, but we've heard through reports that he was missing something like 3 liters of blood. Correct me, you guys, and probably know better than I do. Court's back. I have the feed up right now, so. Why does Court TV not have it up?
So the clothing is just quickly removed versus examined or looked at. And the focus was on getting him.
Yeah, we're going to go back to Boston 10. Oh, wait. And we're going to switch to Court TV. So we're going to be a little bit behind. So just relax. Don't worry. Because I think the audio is going to be better here.
Well, as attention, please be seated.
All right. Why don't we get the lieutenant back up here? Thank you.
Sir, I'll remind you, you're still under oath.
Okay.
Go right ahead, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Ron.
Sigh.
So Lieutenant Woodbury, turning attention back to the treatment of Mr. O'Keefe in the back of the ambulance, correct?
Yes.
With respect to that, you testified that you don't recall sort of specifically anything as far as clothing for Mr. O'Keefe, is that correct?
I was not paying attention to the clothing.
And so to that point, what were you paying attention to at that?
Primarily, the big issue was doing the CCR, then to CPR. We're trying to resuscitate the person as best we can. We know with the hypothermic patient, it's very difficult. It's a longer treatment protocol than a typical cardiac arrest because we have to do the CPR for an extended period of time. We have to get the patient warmed up. So the clothing is just quickly removed versus examined or looked at. And the focus was on getting compressions done. Someone was trying to intubate, getting a line started. So that's what we're mainly focused on.
As far as treatment is concerned, what, if any, sort of interplay or intersection is there between a cardiac arrest and a hypothermic patient?
When someone's hypothermic and in a cardiac arrest, we can't declare them dead or passed on until they've been warmed up. A lot of times with hypothermic patients, they can appear to be dead when they're still actually alive. So there has been instances where people have woken up in morgues that were hypothermic when their body warmed up a little bit. So we have to be very cautious, very careful about, treating them as much as we can, as careful as we can. We can't shake them too much, can't move them too much. So it's getting the blood circulating and then starting ventilating after a few minutes.
Okay, seems like he's focused on all the right things at the scene. And this is the first time we've heard an actual testimony that there have been times where patients have woke up in the morgue after being declared dead from hypothermia. So they have to warm the body up before they can declare a person dead. We've not heard that in any testimony yet. And so we know that he was not declared dead until 7:50 a.m. And we know because we saw video that he was put in the ambulance at 6:14 and they were en route to the hospital by 6:27. So it took over an hour and a half from leaving the scene to the time when he was pronounced dead. They did their best, I'm sure, to warm him up at the hospital to try and revive him. And one of the witnesses, at least, has already testified that they thought it was a viable arrest, that they could bring him back or that he could be saved.
Back to the CCR, the chest compression
Yep.
you were talking about. What, if any, sort of, based on your training and experience, what, if any, sort of protocols are, well, let me ask you this. Were you doing chest compressions throughout the entirety of this interaction with the patient?
No, chest compressions, most people do them about 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, it's very tiring to do chest compressions. So we swap off every few minutes. So a different person will come in and do the compressions. They'll do it for a little while, go into a different task. Someone else will come in and do compressions.
Is that sort of the protocol that you followed in this instance? with
Yes.
regard to Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes, we were rotating the person doing compressions.
And the ambulance at some point leaves the scene and goes to a hospital, is that correct?
Correct.
And do you know what hospital, Mr.
Good Samaritan Medical Center.
If you could just wait till.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Questions.
Yeah, Good Samaritan Medical Center.
And did you go along for that ambulance ride?
No, I did not.
And where did you go?
So as the lieutenant on the engine, I stay with the engine. I detailed my 2 other engine personnel to the ambulance. So they went with the 2 engine personnel, the 2 regular people on the ambulance, as well as an additional person. Timmy Nuttall was the extra person for that one.
And so you take the engine and go with it.
I went back to the station.
And at some point shortly after that, are you called back to the roadway of Fairview Road?
Yes.
And same general area of Fairview Road?
Yes, same address.
And how is it that you get from the station back to
So we had struck a box to cover the personnel that we had detailed. That means we send out a page looking for additional people to come in. We had Sam Pock come in. So he was my engine driver, and I was in the lieutenant seat. We responded back in engine 4.
And the ambulance that had been there on Fairview Road with you previously was at Good Samaritan. is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah. A call like that takes an extended period of time, even at the hospital, to assist them there. So we had to get an ambulance from Station 2.
And if you know who was on that ambulance from Station 2.
That was Jason Becker and Dan Whitley.
Now, with reference to this particular call, what, if anything, was this secondary dispatch with regard to?
So this call was for a Section 12, which is someone in having a psychological issue.
And do you know who that Section 12 was in regard to?
Yeah, this was for Karen Reed.
And at some point, you go back to the scene along with the engine and the second ambulance from Station 2?
Yeah, so the engine got there first. The ambulance coming from another station, so it was a couple extra minutes before they got there.
And when you arrived, who, if anyone else, is sort of on scene on Fairview Road at that time?
The police were still on scene. They had never left. So initially it was me, Sam Pock, and the police. So I went up to try to get the backstory of why we're doing a Section 12 and what was going on.
And at some point, well, when you first arrived, without regard to what was said to you, but who, if anyone, do you speak with to sort of try to gain this information or backstory?
When I got onto the scene, I talked to the police that was there.
Who'd you talk to, sir? The police officer
The
who
police
was there?
officer, yes. Sorry.
And do you recall specifically who that police officer was?
I really did not pay attention to the individual officer.
And at some point, do you have a conversation, or what, if any, conversation do you have with the patient, in this case, the defendant, Ms. Reed?
So it was when we identified Karen Reed as the patient, the ambulance arrived shortly after. We started talking to her and trying to get her into the ambulance to talk to her further.
And just to be clear for the records, when you say Ms. Reed, do you see her in the courtroom today?
Yes, she's right over there.
That's a record reflect identification of the defendant by the witness?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, with respect to the defendant, Ms. Reed, where is she sort of when you first make contact with her on scene when you come back?
In the general vicinity of where the police cars are.
And what is sort of the purpose of this initial conversation that you're having with Ms. Reed?
For a Section 12, that's when someone's made threats to them, harm themselves or others. So I just had to judge her mental ability at the time and if she was a threat to us and how much of a threat she was to herself. So just a quick evaluation, see how her behavior was.
And what, if any, observations did you make of her during your quick conversation?
She appeared very distraught, very upset. Initially just trying to explain the situation to her about going to the hospital with the Section 12, and she was resistant to that.
Wouldn't you be?
And so when you say she was resistant to that, what, if anything, did she say or do to?
She did not want to go.
Hold on. You cannot talk over each other.
Sorry.
And the objection's overruled.
Please go ahead.
It's a hard
So
thing.
what was the question again, please?
It's a hard thing to do when you're a witness in court because the court reporter, I mean, I'm used to a stenographer where they're typing into a machine and it's a special machine that they type the transcript into. But this woman seems to be speaking into something. And I guess that's just new technology that I haven't seen. But it's very difficult for the court reporter to take things down when two people are talking at the same time. So whenever I would prep a witness, I would always say, make sure that if you can answer yes or no, just answer yes or no. Do not volunteer any more information, number one. And number two, you have to wait before the attorney finishes their question before you start to answer. Even if you know what they're going to say, even if you are anticipating what they're going to say, it is very important for you to wait until the question is over, take a beat, it's no race, and then answer the question. And he seems to be in a rush. He knows what the question is going to be. He wants to answer it, but they have to get it clear in the record. So a lot of witnesses do that. It's not uncommon. And he's just nervous. And please, if you're watching another stream at the same time, just don't give any spoilers in the chat. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
So what, if anything, when you say she was resistant, what, if anything, did she communicate to you or observations did you make in regard to that?
She did not want to go to the hospital, and she didn't think she needed any assistance.
And what, if anything, are you sort of, you mentioned you were explaining sort of the process to her. What, if anything, are you saying in that explanation?
Well, once a Section 12 gets written, it's written by the police. Once it's written, we are required to transport to the hospital. Section 12 means that they believe you're a threat to yourself or others. So you have to get evaluated at the hospital by the hospital staff there to see how mentally stable you are.
Okay, so once it's written, she had no choice but to go. So his observations of what he saw and whether or not she wanted to go didn't really matter because she wasn't allowed to say no because the police had already written it up as a Section 12. See how that works? Kind of like when you get pulled over for a ticket and you try and start giving your abada story about why you shouldn't be given a ticket. And they're like, I already started writing it out. Sorry. It's similar. Once the police have ordered a Section 12, she can't get out of it. And I'm learning now that Section 12 in Massachusetts just requires an ER visit with an eval, not a 72-hour hold. Like in New York, we call it a 5150. And that's an involuntary 72-hour hold if they do determine, I guess, that you're a threat to yourself or others. So this Section 12 is just an ER visit for an evaluation. And then maybe if she gets admitted, do they call it something else? I don't know. But he's saying that she could not have refused. It's automatic.
Now, at this time of this conversation, what, if anything, did you know as far as the relationship between Ms. Reed and the prior patient, Mr. O'Keefe?
I knew they had a relationship. I wasn't sure if they were married or engaged or what their status was, but I knew she was did have a strong relationship with him.
And in reference to Mr. O'Keefe, during your conversation with Ms. Reed, what, if anything, was she asking or saying in reference to Mr. O'Keefe?
She kept repeating, is he dead? Is he dead? She seemed very concerned about that. We're trying to explain to her that we cannot declare him dead. He's being evaluated. He's being treated. They're trying to treat him the best they can.
And as far as when she's stating these things to you, is this, as far as the sort of tonality of her voice while she's saying these things to you, can you describe that?
She was very up and down. It was a repetitive conversation with her. She's obviously experiencing a lot of different emotions. So just her emotional state was all over the place.
As it should,
And as far as this sort of second
be.
time that you're on scene, about how long period of time are we talking?
That was about between 15 and 20 minutes.
And as far as your conversation with Ms. Reed, where did she go? Did you stay with her sort of the entire time that she was on scene that second time, or?
Because she was resistant, we were trying to get her to voluntarily go. If someone voluntarily goes, even with the section written, they're released a lot quicker. So we're trying to convince her to go, be willing to go with us versus being forced. If at some point we have to actually force her to go against her will, then it's going to be a much longer hospital stay. So our main goal with staying on the scene so long was to try to get her willingly to go. Just makes her experience much better.
And just to be clear, when you say we, who specifically are you from?
It was me, Dan Whitley, Jason Becker were the ones talking to her in the back of the ambulance.
When you clear, sort of when you leave the scene, where is Ms. Reed at that point?
So the ambulance transported her to the Good Samaritan. We also detailed Sam Park as the driver.
So the gentleman who had driven, or the firefighter that had driven you in the engine to the scene that
Yep.
drives the ambulance away.
Yes,
Would
correct.
you say his name again, please?
Sam Park.
Sam what?
Sam Park.
Spell it, please, the last name?
P-O-C-H is the last name.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I think she thought he said park, a pack.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
Okay. Eddie?
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Woodbury, you and I have never met or spoken, correct?
No.
I know you had said you were nervous, so I'm going to try and make
Okay.
this fairly brief,
Thank you.
sir. I just have a couple of areas that I'd like to go
Okay.
through with. So with regard to your interaction with Karen Reed and what you actually heard from her mouth,
Okay.
That's sort of where I want to concentrate, as opposed to anything that anybody else may have said to you about what they believe she might have said. Okay?
Okay.
And it seems to me that your main interaction with her was not when the initial call came in to respond to, a man who was unresponsive in the snow. It was after you went back to the station in the engine and then came back to the scene for the purposes of the section 12 that you described. Would that be fair to say?
Correct.
And when you came back to the scene for the section 12, it's also fair to say that the section 12 issue was your focus, correct?
Correct.
You had an order in hand, correct?
The police had it and they gave it to us when we got there.
Right. Okay. So you got an order in hand once you got there,
Correct.
which is what you expected to happen, correct?
Yes.
And your focus at that point is, okay, and I don't want to be too, flip, but we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Is that a fair characterization?
That is one way to put it.
And you wanted to do it the easy way.
Yes, correct.
And you wanted to persuade Karen Reed that she should want to do it the easy way, correct?
Yes.
And after some conversation back and forth where she was initially resistant, she eventually agreed, yes, I'll do, not to put words in your mouth or hers, but to the effect of, yes, we'll do this the easy way, correct?
Did get her to agree to transport. Yeah.
And with regard to her state of mind, I believe you had testified that she appeared to be very distraught,
Yes, correct.
going through a lot of emotions,
Yes.
grief-stricken,
Oh, that's one of them. Yes.
hysterical at times,
Yes.
raising her voice at times,
Yes.
crying at times.
I didn't see any actual tears, but
That
yeah,
type
type of emotional display.
All right. And so in terms of the only commentary that you heard with regard to her feelings or questions regarding John O'Keefe, it was the statements that you heard repetitively over and over and over again. Is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead?
That was some of the things she was saying. Yes.
Your Honor, may we approach sidebar briefly?
Okay.
Okay. Well, sidebar. Is he dead? Is he dead? So maybe he's got something else in store. Of course, they're going to pan over and zoom in on Karen because they like to do that. Bernie says she's been so violated, I could weep. This could be any of us. MD says she was absolutely in shock. Cam says Yannetti is calm and confident because he has Alan Jackson to complement his style with witnesses that are going to deny and change their testimony. So he's more authoritative to get his point clear. It's almost like a good cop, bad cop sometimes. But we've seen Yannetti play bad cop a little bit if he has to. They definitely have different styles. Every lawyer has a different style. And people are surprised when they watch trials that it's not like on TV where everyone is such a great performer. Nunya says being sectioned is extreme as hell. Someone else referred to it as abuse.
So I
Lieutenant Woodbury.
I think, Mr. Yannetti, I think you need the actual,
Yes.
Oh, there must be a
I
video.
was going to ask a couple of questions first and then grab it.
but it's right there for when you need it.
Lieutenant Woodbury, on your direct examination,
Mhm.
you testified a bit, and I don't want to block a jury here, I'm sorry. You testified a bit about the injuries that you observed on John O'Keefe when you first arrived at the scene, correct?
Yes.
You testified about the swollen eye,
Yes.
and you also testified about the scratch marks that you saw on his forearm, correct?
Correct.
I'd like to show you, I'm going to approach in a minute to show you what has been marked M for identification. And when I hand it to you, please keep it to yourself and look at it, and then look up at me when you're done, okay? Having reviewed M for identification, do you recognize what that depicts?
Yes.
What does it depict?
That is Mr. O'Keefe's right arm.
All right. Does that photograph appear to be a fair and accurate representation of the scratch marks that you observed on January 29th of 2022, sir?
Yes.
I would offer that, Your Honor.
Okay. That will be our next exhibit. And again, we'll have to maybe renumber. Counsel, before you leave today, we have to figure out how to keep everything straight.
Understood.
This judge was appointed.
With the court's permission, Your Honor, may I have that published on the screen for the jury?
Yes.
Now, on direct examination, Lieutenant, hang on.
Oh, now they're seeing it.
Oh, good point. I'm going to try to get out of your way so everybody can see. With regard to the injuries that you described on direct examination, Lieutenant, I believe you would mainly concentrate.
I'm sorry. I need to please take this down for me. I need to counsel.
Interesting. Taking it down, putting it up. That looks a lot worse than the ones that we saw floating around, right? That were attached as exhibits. Looked a lot more fresh in that picture. That may have been before it was cleaned up. What do you think? Did she lose control for a minute? I don't know. That was whack. She said it could come in. She said they could put it up. Then they didn't. Missy says, who could believe a car did that? Melissa Smith, furrows. She was appointed quite some time ago. In New York, we elect our local judges here. So usually they automatically get voted in because there are maybe 6 slots available and there's only 6 candidates. So it's not a hotly contested race for judges here in New York. Lately, anyway. Interesting. I wonder what the hubbub was about. Cannot unsee that. You're right, Lee. Can't unsee that. How did that come from a car? Am I crazy? Poor Karen dabbing at her eyes. Somebody said I need to shut up, Chrissy. Every time somebody names you in the chat, I think somebody's telling you to shut up. And I'm like, be nice. So shut up, Chrissy says, I need a ham and a Xanax sandwich. Ham and Xanax sandwich. Whip, he got all that under a coat that he was claimed to be wearing. If you believe the testimony of Dudley Do-Right. Why is this volume not coming up? Guess they're still arguing. Oh, Court TV disabled their chat for this stream. That's interesting. Hello, pool cameraman. It looks like he's talking. Why do you not have your volume on? Hello. Oh, maybe he's not. Oh, because it was Yannetti anyway that was doing the cross, so. Look at Jim, the court clerk, with his heads in his hands like he's ready to, he's had enough. Oh, don't go to the fan. Don't go to the fan. Oh, come on, man. Come on, man. Didn't they already agree to let that photo in? Like, why do they have to have a conference about any of this? I don't know. Joseph Scott Morgan, yes, Kathy. JSM says he's very interested in the clothing. Yeah, he said the clothing tells the story. or it holds a lot of clues to what happened to a person. And it's very important. He said, especially if the clothes are wet. The storage of the clothing is so important, especially if the clothes are wet, because they become tainted and evidence and DNA are lost when clothing is wet if they are not properly stored. Gracie said, I'll settle for a peanut and a Klonopin sandwich. Carrie says, vertigo-inducing court fan. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Can't they find something else to focus on? Isn't there a nice painting in there? Maybe of a judge from days gone by. Hear ye, hear ye. Let's focus on a painting in the courtroom. Hopefully the clothing's available and is properly stored, Debbie. They have some of it, but you will find out because we know Proctor held on to the clothing for weeks before it was logged into evidence. Who knows where it was? Hubert, this is so unfair to both families and shame on law enforcement for not doing the right thing. I mean, in any homicide case, but especially in the case of a fallen brother in blue. I just don't get it. Arthur says the prosecution tricked O'Keefe's mom and dad. Thanks, Nika, for your super chat. I've watched many trials, and this is one of the worst judges I have seen. Thanks for your super chat, Nika. The evidence was proctored, says Kate. Nicole says they are clearly unraveling. Nicole, I'm sure we can think of a song lyric for this, like, this darkness got to give. That's the one I responded back to you the other day with. Let's think of what's coming to mind right now. I'll think of something. I'm Shona. It's one of my amazing moms. This trial is going to confuse and hurt the family even more. Christy Lynn says, I'm far too under-medicated to be watching this. Oh my goodness. One way or another. Yeah, Phil, one way or another. Did the jury see that photo? Yes, they were in the room. They were in the room. The witness was on the stand. They did a sidebar before he showed the photo, and then they allowed him to show the photo. And then the judge said, quickly take the photo down. And now they're having a conference about it. True Crime from Fangirl says, I so wish we had Judge Newman for this trial. Judge Newman from the Murdoch trial. He was very measured and very calm. And you know what was really good was the judge who heard was it the appellate issue on Murdoch? The woman who came out of retirement to hear that, I liked her a lot. I think she still should have a career, but I think she's retired. Peter says, agree, Mel, it should have been a priority radio run. MOS, seriously injured, yeah. I don't know. Boston 25 is live showing the trial now. Well, maybe they're a little bit behind because we are on sidebar right now.
There
we go.
So jurors, I can assure you that by Monday, I mean, we're in really good shape. It's an organizational situation that I have to deal with. So we've been dealing with that. We appreciate your patience and we are in good shape. And Ms. Gianetti, if you need the exhibit, it's here.
Terrific. May I have it published again on the screen?
Yes.
Thanks, Judge.
Now, Lieutenant, with regard to the injuries that you observed, did you notice any lividity on the body when you were looking at John O'Keefe?
Being hypothermic, he was very pale overall. So the skin wasn't pinked up yet. So it's hard to really judge the rest of the skin that way until it's warmed up and much later into the scene.
You are familiar with the term
Yep.
lividity, though?
Yes.
And could you just explain that for the jury?
That's like bruising.
Bruising.
So the pooling of blood in lower sections. So for like a cardiac arrest patient, when they have lividity, it looks like bruising on the underside where all the blood has pooled. And we did not really notice that.
But it's not actually bruising from an injury, it's just the blood being brought
Settling down.
Right.
It's the same thing, yes.
You can't
One
talk
at a time,
over
please.
each other.
Yep, sorry. Yeah, so it appears like bruising, and bruising is basically pooling of blood under the skin. So lividity is just gravity-fed pooling of blood under the skin. And it usually happens what is the section of the body that is lowest.
I see. Okay. Now, with regard to the scratches that you've testified about and that you now observe on Exhibit 382, I believe, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your testimony on direct examination was that you observed them in the forearm area, correct?
It was the right, like forearm to arm. I was trying to signal like right up here, but yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I guess that's my.
Yeah,
It wasn't just on the.
just, not just, it was the arm area. You know, mostly what I noticed was forearm, but there was some around there.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it wasn't just below the
It
elbow.
wasn't up just below the elbow.
There was some above the
Yes.
elbow as well?
Yep.
That's consistent with Exhibit 382?
Correct.
I just have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
No further questions.
Mr. Lally, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Lieutenant, thank you very much. So
Okay,
you're all
thank
set.
StreamYard is having issues, so if your super chat is disappearing, I don't know what's
Next
going on here.
witness, Mr. Lally.
Thank
Yes,
you,
Your Honor. The
Wolfram.
Commonwealth would call Mr. Daniel Whitley to the stand.
Watch your step. Clerk, and raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case now and hearing for the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Daniel Whitley, Whitley.
And what do you do for work, sir?
I'm a paramedic firefighter with the Town of Canton Fire Department.
And how long have you been a member of the Canton Fire?
I was hired in March of '06.
And prior to that work with the Canton Fire Department, did you work within that same field in any other capacity for any other company?
Yes, correct. I worked for American Medical Response out of Brockton as an EMT intermediate and a paramedic for 5 years.
And you're a certified paramedic, is that correct?
Correct.
And how long have you held that certification?
It was, I believe, November of 2006 that I got that certification.
And is there any sort of continuing educational component or recertification process that's involved with being a certified paramedic?
Yes, we recertify every 2 years. We're required to hold basic life support card, which is just generally CPR, and advanced cardiac life support, which is ACLS. It's more dealing with EKGs and how to run resuscitations, cardiac arrests, things of that nature.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th into January 29th, 2022, were you working with the Canton Fire Department on those dates?
Yes,
What kind of shift were you working in?
24-hour shift, 8 a.m. to 8 a.m.
And where were you assigned on that particular date?
The Ponkbog Station, Station 2.
The Ponkabog Station, where is that located within Canton?
The north side of town on Southmont Street.
And how were you assigned? Were you assigned to a specific duty or a specific?
Yes, I was assigned to Ambulance 2 with Jason Becker. As I was a field training officer at that point, and he was just finishing up his field training after he recently became certified as a paramedic.
And now, at some point shortly after 6 a.m., were you aware of a call or dispatch in regard to Station House 1?
Yes, we had just returned from a previous call about 5 a.m. and heard the tones go off. Actually, we were in the day room, which is where it's the living room of a fire station. And we heard the tones go off. We heard the police going to Fairview Road. And we just kind of sat and were wondering what was going on there.
Now, you yourself, you and Firefighter Becker, were you dispatched to a call as well, approximately 6:41 or 6:42 a.m.?
Yes.
And at the time that you received that dispatch, what, if anything, were you aware of with regard to the prior call that the other ambulance was?
So when the tones go off between the two stations, we're able to hear what the dispatch complaint is, what they're going for, and it came in as, I believe, CPR in progress in the snow or something to that regard. So we knew that it was a fairly serious call that Station 1 had gone to.
Now, when you received your dispatch at approximately 6:42 a.m. or so, what was that call in regard to, and where did you respond?
We were dispatched for a Section 12.
And as far as your assignments within the ambulance between yourself and Firefighter Becker, with regard to this call, who was doing what?
I was driving. He's what we call the tech, the lead paramedic on the case. That's just generally how we operate.
And from your response, or your driving from Station 2 to Fairview Road, what, if anything, did you observe or experience en route in between the two?
At that point, it was snowing pretty heavily. We were coming down Chapman Street, getting ready to take the right onto Fairview. We nearly slid off the road, making the turn onto Fairview. It was snowing that heavily, and I don't believe the roads had been really plowed or treated or anything like that for us to. So it was pretty slippery.
Now, in addition to ambulance number 2 that you and Firefighter Becker were in, what, if any, other sort of vehicles or apparatus was dispatched to this call as well?
There was Engine 3, which is the District 1 engine, and at least 2 police cruisers. And then another gray SUV kind of further down from where we parked.
Now, when you arrive in this area on Fairview Road, what, if anything, do you sort of observe as far as who's there when you arrive?
When I got out, my Lieutenant Woodbury and Sam Park were there.
And they were on the engine, is that correct?
They were on the engine, correct?
Now, beyond sort of the personnel from your department, you mentioned that there were some police officers there as well?
Yes, Melanie and Sarah, and then 2 other females, at least 2 other females.
And the other 2 females, where were they when you first sort of get out of the ambulance?
A few yards ahead of us, a few dozen yards ahead of us, I'd say.
And were there any other vehicles beyond sort of first responders that you observed on?
Just that other gray SUV.
And so I guess my question is, where were the 2 females that you observed in relation to the gray SUV?
Near it, maybe in front of, maybe one was inside. There were 3 females there.
And at some point while you're on scene, you learned the identity of your patient, correct?
Yes,
And what was the name of the patient?
Karen Reed.
And you had some conversation with Karen Reed that day, is that correct?
Yes,
And do you see Karen Reed in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you just describe as to where she's seated or an article of clothing that she's wearing?
She's seated right at that table right there.
I'm sorry, if you could just point as to where she is.
Right here.
No, just that's record reflect identification.
Okay.
Now, when you first sort of arrive on scene, who, if anyone, is the first person that you talk to?
Lieutenant Woodbury and Sam Park.
And following that conversation, who, if anyone, do you speak to?
Probably briefly Lieutenant Mullaney, but more, I'm sorry, not Lieutenant, Officer Mullaney and Officer Saraf.
Now, following your conversation, well, let me ask you this sort of in general terms. When you respond to a call for a Section 12, what is sort of the protocol that you go through in regard to that?
Whether it's a Section 12 or any call, basically, the lead tech generally takes over immediate patient care, goes over, assesses. Usually the partner will go over and try and find out background details, try and find not only, well, especially for a Section 12, you want to get, the tech will get, which is Jason's role, the patient story, and then I'll get everyone else's story.
And at some point, you have a conversation with Ms. Reed as well.
Oh, yes.
And where is that in relation to vehicles on scene? So what is that initial conversation?
The initial conversation, she was very upset. She kept saying, so we had a Section 12 written, and that was to take her to the hospital because she made threats against her life, saying, I don't want to live anymore. If my husband dies, I don't want to be alive anymore. And myself and Jason and Lieutenant Woodbury were kind of like, well, that's seemingly more in the lines of normal grieving process after something traumatic happens to a loved one, whether they're going to die or not. We kind of didn't feel like it kind of led to that level of a Section 12 to have her transported to the hospital.
Interesting.
So at that point, I exited the ambulance and I went to speak with Officer Saraf, and I said, this kind of doesn't, if we want her to be at the hospital, get a full eval, we're going to need more than just, if my husband dies, I want to die, because that seems just like normal grieving things to say. And so I went back to the ambulance. He went, I don't know where he went. I don't know whether it was cruiser or what, but he came back, notified me that her
Sustain.
And from that conversation, did you receive more information or more clarity as to statements that Ms. Reed had made?
Yes, Officer Saraf had said that.
Objection.
So not what he said, sir. So
We
you
were
are
informed.
Okay, we're going to stop and we're going to rewind to the beginning of what he just said, because that is very important. Okay, he's relying on his memory. He probably doesn't have notes, and he said that Karen said, if my husband dies, I don't want to be alive anymore. But he's also calling that a very normal grief response. And he is saying that he did not think that she needs to be sectioned. Somebody said, yeah, she was calling him boyfriend on the dash cam footage. Correct. But I don't know that there is dash cam footage of this. This is when they came back. So this is after Officer O'Keefe's body left the scene. This is after Karen was told to come back to the scene. Somebody called Carrie Roberts and told to bring her back. Team Brittany, thanks for being an amazing moderator. It says, we heard her say boyfriend on the dash cam and never heard husband ever. Correct. And I'm wondering if they have other dash cam footage for this, or if he's just misremembering. But again, he's saying he didn't think she needed to be sectioned, but they had the order in hand. So let's see where he goes with this. He says this is normal grieving.
Where is that in relation to vehicles on scene? So what is that initial conversation?
The initial conversation, she was very upset. She kept saying, so we had a Section 12 written, and that was to take her to the hospital because she made threats against her life, saying, I don't want to live anymore. If my husband dies, I don't want to be alive anymore. And myself and Jason and Lieutenant Woodbury were kind of like, well, that's seemingly more in the lines of normal grieving process after something traumatic happens to a loved one, whether they're going to die or not. We kind of didn't feel like it kind of led to that level of a Section 12 to have her transported to the hospital. So at that point, I exited the ambulance and I went to speak with Officer Saraf, And I said, this kind of doesn't, if we want her to be at the hospital, get a full eval, we're going to need more than just, if my husband dies, I want to die, because that seems just like normal grieving things to say. And so I went back to the ambulance. He went, I don't know where he went. I don't know whether it was cruiser or what, but he came back.
There seems to be some confusion in the chat. He is saying that he heard her say this. He heard her say, if my husband, I don't want to be alive anymore if my husband dies. That he heard her say that, and then he went back to the ambulance. So for those of you who are confused about the timeline of events, the ambulance leaves to go to the hospital. The officers tell Carrie Roberts they can take Karen back to One Meadows, which is John O'Keefe's house, because they don't need her anymore. Within minutes, there was testimony that, I think it was Matthew Kelly who testified, within minutes, they got a call from Canton Dispatch saying she needs to be sectioned. We're telling Carrie Roberts to bring her back. So within minutes, she was brought back to the scene. He is saying that he was called out to do the Section 12 with Lieutenant Woodbury, who just testified before him, and Sam Pack, and that he heard Karen make that statement directly. But again, he says that she said it was her husband, and a lot of people are saying, we've already heard her say, my boyfriend's dead, my boyfriend's dead, that's my boyfriend, is he alive, is he alive? On dash cam footage, and she would not have called him her husband, so we're going to see how reliable we think this testimony is.
Notified me that her
Sustain.
And from that conversation, did you receive more information or more clarity as to statements that Ms. Reed had made?
Yes, Officer Saraf had said that.
Objection.
So not what he said, sir. So
We
You
were
are
informed
unmuted.
that.
Objection.
Okay. That's an objection because it's hearsay. So he can't testify as to what Officer Saraf said in order to prove the truth of the matter asserted. Officer Saraf has already testified. That is a sustainable objection. And I guess there's still people on Zoom and they don't know how to work the Zoom. Unmuting people, muting people. That's what you're hearing in the background.
I'm not sure.
So you can't testify to what somebody else told you. You can when there's no objection regarding what Ms. Reed told you,
Okay.
but you can't testify what anybody else told you.
Okay.
So when I say sustain, that means you have to stop.
Okay.
And the lawyer will ask another question.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Firefighter Whitley, at some point, specific to your conversations with the defendant, Ms. you described sort of her demeanor or any observations you made in relation to that as you were speaking.
Yes, she was very upset. She kept asking if there was any chance. She kept asking us if we knew if the person ambulance 1 had transported was alive or dead, and we could not speak to that. She asked if somebody could be alive in the snow without a jacket for many hours. And at that point, we were just trying to give her any hope that whomever A1 transported was still alive. And we kind of just talked about far off hypothermia cases where, kids have fallen in rivers and been submerged for many minutes, maybe even hours, and survived with no neurological deficits.
They're trying to get that how long to die in cold search in there. Can you see? Can you see what they're doing here? Saying that he's having a conversation with Karen and she's asking how long he could have been alive in the snow with a light jacket on. And now he's going to elaborate. He's going to elaborate about stories that he's telling her about people being alive in rivers. That's where they're going with this, to try and validate the Gemma Cape Google searches of how long to die in cold. That is my opinion. And it'll be interesting to see if there's a report of this, because this is the first that we're hearing of this. Daniel Whitley, I don't know if there's a witness statement on him. But it seems like they are trying to paint a picture, and paint a picture they will. Even though the rest of this testimony was not very clear, because lot of people in the chat didn't realize that he was testifying about what he said Karen told him. Okay. So we're going to take that back just a little bit because I prefer to do it now than later. We're going to hear where this is coming from. After the objection, he was about to say, Officer Saroff said, and then he was objected to. It was sustained. Now he's going to continue.
Objection.
So not what he said, sir. So
We
You
were
are
informed
unmuted.
that,
Objection.
I'm not
Nope.
sure.
so you can't testify to what somebody else told you. You can when there's no objection regarding what Ms. Reed told you,
Okay.
but you can't testify what anybody else told you.
Okay.
So when I say sustain, that means you have to stop.
Okay.
And the lawyer will ask another question.
Okay.
Okay.
My father's keeper says they got called more than 20 minutes after Jen McCabe Googled that, though. Yeah. And you notice how Lally's not asking him what time it was? He wants to know how much snow there was. He wants to make sure that they shoveled off the apron before they left the firehouse. And he wants to make sure that the roads were slippery and it took them a while to get there. But he doesn't want to know what time it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Firefighter Whitley, at some point, specific to your conversations with the defendant, you described sort of her demeanor, any observations you made in relation to that as you were speaking.
Yes, she was very upset. She kept asking if there was any chance.
Stop.
She kept asking us
He was asked about
if we
demeanor.
knew if
He was asked about demeanor and observations. He was not asked about conversations. I'd be objecting like crazy to this right now. He needs to be directed to answer the question. The question was, tell us about any observations you made about her behavior or demeanor. Now he's going to start about, okay. They're going to let it go, I guess, because perhaps they have some impeachable information about him too. I've never seen a witness statement from this witness. If anybody has one or has seen one, let me know.
the person ambulance 1 had transported was alive or dead, and we could not speak to that. She asked if somebody could be alive in the snow without a jacket for many hours. And at that point, we were just trying to give her any hope that whomever A1 transported was still alive. And we kind of just talked about far off hypothermia cases where, you know, kids have fallen in rivers and been submerged for many minutes, maybe even hours, and survived with no neurological deficits. So we were just trying to give her some sort of hope on the way to the hospital that there was a chance that her husband could be alive.
Now, at this point, what, if anything, did you know about sort of the relationship between your patient, the defendant, Ms. Reed, and the patient from ambulance 1 that had been transported previously?
She identified him as her husband.
And is that something that she said once or more than once?
Many, many times.
Now, she asked you some questions about his status and made specific reference to his cloak. Is that correct?
The only thing I recall is asking if he could have survived without a jacket.
Now, as far as
All right, we're going to stop. I like to stop before the question is asked because Shannon says something's going on with StreamYard. It usually puts the super chats in a separate column. It's not. So I want to make sure that I address this, Shannon, who sends a $5 super chat and says, comments on Court TV and Law and Crime suck. Earlier, you felt the jury got it, but now I'm getting a bit worried. Please calm my nerves, Melanie. Take a deep breath, Shannon. Let's all take a collective deep breath with an om. Okay. The defense would be objecting. They would be jumping out of their seats right now if they did not expect this testimony and if they did not have something that they were going to cross-examine this witness with. So everybody take a deep breath. That's what it sounds like to me, that they're trying to justify these Google searches. But again, the Google searches were made. One of them was made at 2:27 a.m. Deep breaths.
these conversations that you had with Ms. Reed, where did they occur in relation to the ambulance?
They were in the back of the ambulance.
And who, if anyone, was present in the back of the ambulance beyond yourself and the defendant?
Jason Becker.
And with reference to, you mentioned that Firefighter Becker was sort of the lead paramedic or the lead tech on this, is that correct?
Yes.
So is there, from sort of his role and your role, what are some of the sort of differences in the duties and responsibilities in relation, we'll call it?
So for any Section 12 or our department policy is there will be 2 EMTs, paramedics, firefighters with during transport at all times. That's both for our safety and the patient safety. So that's why it wasn't just 2 EMTs or paramedics driving to the hospital. I was in back with Jason, and Sam Park was driving.
Now, as far as you testified earlier about observations of her being upset or distraught, is that correct?
Correct.
Was that consistent throughout your interaction with her, or?
No. There would be episodes where she would like go from crying in her hands to all of a sudden perking up. She was crying about having to take care of kids, saying she couldn't do it. And I was saying, you can do this. It's not as hard as it seems. She kept saying, I can't take care of these kids. They're not my kids and they're not his kids. That's when I figured out who ambulance 1 transported.
What?
And I was saying, well, it seems like you have a good, strong support system.
Wait.
People who came and helped you in a blizzard to help come find your husband.
Okay. Somebody said earlier we'd all have been listening to the scanner, and we all would have known what that call was about. And those who know, know. So that's how he learned that she was talking about Officer John O'Keefe, was when she started talking about the children? Okay, that's interesting. Why? Does he know John O'Keefe? And did he know that John O'Keefe adopted his sister's children? Huh. Curious.
She said, she asked me if I knew Carrie Roberts. I said I did. She said anybody who knows Carrie Roberts wouldn't say those things. And that kind of took me aback a bit. It seemed strange to say something like that after you were just crying because your husband was dead.
Okay. Because your husband was just dead? Okay. No, stop.
I was
Stop. For those of you, there was some person in the chat that said, who cares? Just press play. If that's your view on what we're doing here, this is not the channel for you. Then go watch another channel without commentary. I'm a legal analyst. This is what I do. Been a lawyer for 30 years. And the people who are watching this watch this because they want my commentary. So that was kind of rude. Don't do it. If you don't like it, there's plenty of other places that you can go watch this about. Okay. All right, here we go.
Of her being upset or distraught, is that correct?
correct.
Was that consistent throughout your interaction with her, or?
No. There would be episodes where she would like go from crying in her hands to all of a sudden perking up. She was crying about having to take care of kids, saying she couldn't do it. And I was saying, you can do this. It's not as hard as it seems. She kept saying, I can't take care of these kids. They're not my kids and they're not his kids. That's when I figured out who ambulance 1 transported. And I was saying, well, it seems like you have a good, strong support system. People who came and helped you in a blizzard to help come find your husband. She said, she asked me if I knew Carrie Roberts. I said I did. She said anybody who knows Carrie Roberts wouldn't say those things.
He knows Carrie Roberts. Right before that, he said she's lucky she has a good support system to help her come out to look for her husband in a blizzard. And she said anyone who knows Carrie Roberts wouldn't say those things, which is making me think that she doesn't think Carrie Roberts is a very good support system. But now he's already revealed his bias because he knows Kerry Roberts. He's a friend of Kerry Roberts. So there you have it. He just volunteered that information. He wasn't asked about that. He wasn't asked by Lally if he knows Kerry Roberts. This is the danger when you give a witness an open-ended question like that. They will just ramble on and ramble on and ramble on, ramble on Rose, and ramble on. There's a Grateful Dead reference and a Led Zeppelin reference for you in there. So this is interesting. Can't wait for Cross.
And that kind of took me aback a bit. It seemed strange to say something like that after you were just crying because your husband was dead.
You just said he wasn't dead. You told her he wasn't dead.
Take
That
it
people
back.
could survive in the cold. So, okay, this is so all over the place. He was taken aback by that she would insult Kerry Roberts, right? Yeah, Lord, I was born a rambling man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We need to get the Almond brothers in here. A little almond joy. Lord, I was born a rambling man. Apparently he likes Kerry Roberts because he was taken aback that somebody would insult Kerry Roberts. This is what I'm taking away from this. Taken aback, manic. She's like, 1 minute she's crying, the next minute she's not. Then, he's like, she's going in and out of being distraught. Now he's walking into it. It's okay. All right, McTickles.
I was just kind of surprised.
If I could take you back within that just for a minute. So you had testified that during that, her description, you sort of realized who was the patient in the ambulance one. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what, if anything, made you realize, or who did you think it was?
I live in and grew up in the Ponquag neighborhood of Canton, and Mr. O'Keefe was known for taking on his niece and nephew after, I'm sorry, I'm not sure positive of the relationship, but I believe it was his sister and his brother-in-law passed away. And it was something people admired him for, people looked up to him for. But I was able to, I also, I moved into the Ponquag neighborhood back after living outside of Canton for a few years. The O'Keefes lived diagonally across from me. I never had any sort of interaction with him or anything. When I moved in, my wife was probably about 6 months pregnant and I had 2 toddlers, so I was pretty busy. I figured he was pretty busy. I never even had a chance to introduce myself or anything before he moved to Meadows, which is how I kind of figured out.
Your Honor, I object to this line of questioning.
Okay, next, sustain, next question.
You can see what he's doing. He's getting out ahead of it because now he's afraid of personal relationships, Lally. So now he's just letting him go about the personal relationship because he knows that the defense already knows that he lived across the street from John O'Keefe and he admired him. He looked up to him. He admired him. And I'm sure the defense knows this and didn't expect Lally to bring it up, but Lally's going to bring it up now because I'm sure he prepped him again last night after he realized the disaster that was Katie McLaughlin and her personal relationship with Caitlin Albert.
Now, you had also mentioned during your conversation with the defendant that she had said some things about Kerry Roberts, correct?
Correct.
And how is it that you know Kerry Roberts?
Well, Kerry lives around the corner from me.
Objection.
No, I'll allow that. Next question, please.
How long had you known Kerry Roberts?
Just from moving back into the neighborhood, she would run the neighborhood block party, and she put out that she would like the fire truck there on the neighborhood Facebook page. So I volunteered to bring the fire truck to the neighborhood block party.
There's a neighborhood block party Facebook page, and there you have it. She would bring the fire truck to the neighborhood block party. What is the name of that neighborhood? He said Park something neighborhood. Yeah. So he knows everyone in this story. And if he lived across from the O'Keefes, he would have known that John was in the ambulance. So then they knew Karen. Let's hear it. No spoilers if you're ahead in the coverage. We're still a little behind.
And was Ms. Roberts on scene on Fairview when you arrived in your ambulance?
Yes,
So she was one of the other females along with the defendant.
correct.
Now, with reference to when you brought up as far as support system, and included Ms. Roberts within that, what, if anything, did the defendant say about Ms. Roberts?
Objection.
Sustained. Next question, please.
Now, this conversation that you had with the defendant in the ambulance, about how long a period of time were we talking about?
20, 25 minutes.
Carly Hart has learned something new today. She, wait, we can like make reservations for a fire truck for block parties? Apparently in Canton you can. Around here, Santa comes around on a fire truck.
And beyond what you've already testified to, what did sort of that conversation consist of, or what was the sort of tone and tenor of that conversation?
We just talked about it.
Again, we were just trying to give her any support. She was, once we were getting closer to the hospital, we
Objection.
So the tone and tenor. So what can you tell us about that? That's admissible, Mr. Yannetti. Go ahead.
the tone, she would go from being almost despondent to when she asked me if I knew Carrie Roberts, the only tone I can use to describe it is snarky.
Objection.
Snarky.
Move to strike.
I'll strike that.
He is one of the desperate housewives of Canton, this guy. He is
Now-
all up in the gossip.
You transported to a Good Samaritan, is that correct?
Correct.
And when you, during the transport, where are you in relation to Ms. Reed from Fairview to Good Samaritan?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
During the transport, Ms. Reed is where within the ambulance?
I believe we have what we call a tech bench, which is a long bench. There's the ambulance stretcher, and then to next to the ambulance stretcher is, we call it the CPR seat, and then that's where Miss Reed sat. And then I was in what we call the airway seat, which is basically like a captain's chair behind the stretcher.
And in addition to yourself and the defendant, who, if anyone, else was sort of in the back of the ambulance at that time?
During transport?
Yes.
During transport, it was just me, Jason Becker, and Miss Reed.
So yourself, along with Firefighter Becker, and right?
Correct.
Who was driving the ambulance?
Sam Park.
Now, when you arrived at Good Samaritan, what, if anything, happened?
Miss Reed was asking to be able to see John, and I made the decision that I would run ahead.
First witness to refer to him as John. First one. Everyone else has called him Mr. O'Keefe. First witness to be on a first name basis with the decedent. And he's claiming he never talked to him, but he lived across the street from him because he had 2 young toddlers and a pregnant wife when he moved in. Okay. Keep talking.
To see if that was in the realm of possibility with the emergency room physician there. So I ran ahead. I came into they call it the code room at Good Sam. And I asked if the wife could see the husband. The ER doctor asked if she would be upset. I said if she would be upset if she was allowed to or not. And I said she's going to be upset. I believe she's going to be upset either way. He was asking if she would get in the way of the resuscitation efforts. And I said it's possible. She's very upset.
This guy is the reason that Karen could not see Officer John O'Keefe, her boyfriend of 2 years, in the hospital. This guy's the reason. Thank you, Mr. Daniel Whitley, for putting in your 2 cents to the doctors, saying that she'd probably get in the way of you trying to do some life-saving measures. So how about that? How about that? No wonder Karen's going ballistic over there at the table. I would be too. I would be far less easier to control. Inserting himself into his situation, like this situation, like he's the one to make that determination. And he thinks she's John O'Keefe's wife. Wow.
So once you arrive at the hospital with the patient, where do you go along with Ms. Wheaton?
We escorted her down to we call it the psych hall or the behavioral hall at Good Sam.
And about how long was it after you escorted her into the hospital that you stayed with her following that?
At least 10 minutes.
And during those 10 minutes, how would you describe sort of her behavior or demeanor during that time?
Objection.
No, he can testify to that.
He was giving the nurses a hard time about.
And about how long was it after you escorted her into the hospital that you stayed with her following that?
At least 10 minutes.
And during those 10 minutes, how would you describe sort of her behavior or demeanor during that time?
Objection.
No, he can testify to that.
He was giving the nurses a hard time about, I'm sorry, she was giving the nurses a hard time about having to get into a Johnny, about having to submit a urine sample. Even the AR text went to the physician who was in the code room to see if she could not have to wear a Johnny, and the ER doc said no. If she's in the psych hall, she's a psych patient, needs to be in a Johnny.
What's a Johnny? Is a Johnny like a straitjacket? Are you telling me that they put this woman in a straitjacket who is having what he called a normal grief reaction to the fact that what he called her husband is dying? People, what's a Johnny? She was giving them a hard time. It's a hospital gown? Giving them a hard time about putting a gown on, okay? And about giving a urine sample because her boyfriend is in the next room and may be dead or dying because he had a conversation with her in the ambulance about how, sometimes people are pulled from rivers and they can still not die of hypothermia. Or is he calling him Johnny? No, he's saying put her in. She was giving the nurses a hard time about putting on a Johnny. And since she was in the psych ward, okay, we're going to take it back. Because the objection was to his observations, but he's allowed to talk about observations, just not certain things that he heard.
About having to submit a urine sample. Even the AR text went to the physician who was in the code room to see if she could not have to wear a Johnny, and the ER doc said no. If she's in the psych hall, she's a psych patient, needs to be in a Johnny. So at that point, there was just a nurse and a tech. We don't usually leave a psych patient with just a single nurse and a tech. So we decided to wait until security had gotten there.
Okay. This is what happens if you rely on the closed captions instead of the testimony, which is why I'm trying to listen and not read them. And that's why probably a lot of people were confused because they're capitalizing the word Johnny. So people are thinking they're referring to John O'Keefe because some witnesses have testified that they called him Johnny, specifically his sister-in-law Erin and her husband Paul. But apparently, like Sim says, you're not taking my clothes off if my boyfriend or husband is dying next door. So she didn't want to put on the hospital gown and she didn't want to pee in a cup. And could you blame her for giving them a hard time? Wow, this is getting rich. Somebody said, when you lose this job, you might want to be a Hollywood writer. Wow.
Before we left.
Laura, may I have one moment?
Yes.
Oh, please take more than a moment. Noreen, you just want to be with your boyfriend and family and not getting told to get in a gown and pee in this bottle. I'd be going ballistic, she says.
Nothing further at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Oh boy, they are
All right,
chomping
Mr. Yannetti.
Thank you.
the bit.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Before we see this deliciousness, let me just thank Cam for his super chat. I don't know if anybody else is having StreamYard issues today, but I definitely am. Anyway, Cam, thank you for your super chat before it gets too far in the weeds here. Cam says, can't hear any more of this. This is a disgrace to our criminal justice system. I hope the feds seriously look into the misconduct clearly displayed in this fiasco. And Cam has told us earlier that he is a third-year law student, and he is horrified by this.
So, Mr. Whitley, when you showed up, you learned that Karen Reed was the patient that you were to deal with, correct?
Correct.
And it was your expectation that she would be going to the hospital, correct?
Correct.
One of the things that you do when you transport somebody to the hospital is you try to get a medical history, correct?
Yep.
Why is that important?
Generally, we get pertinent medical history to pass on to the hospital.
Now you're
So
having
if
words?
something were to happen where the patient wasn't able to describe their past medical history, it gets passed on to the next caregiver, which would be the nurses, doctors at the hospital.
Okay. More information is always better than less information, correct?
I would say so.
And with regard to Ms. Reed, did you take a medical history from her?
I assume Jason did.
Okay. Did you learn the results of that medical history?
You'd have to refer to Jason's report.
Oh, so you don't know that. You don't know about her medical conditions. And you don't know what medications she's on. And you don't know that she has MS. And you don't know she's had 9 surgeries and that she has Crohn's and that, or I don't know how many surgeries, but he remembers all that other chit chat. Okay.
Yes.
Good. She's passing notes. I love that for her.
May I approach?
Yes.
Mr. Whitley, if I'm actually going to show you 2 documents with your permission. One would be Jason's report.
Okay.
And you would talk about Jason Becker, correct?
Correct.
The other is a police report from Sergeant Yuri Buchnick. I'm going to give you the second page of that.
So let's do them one at a time.
Sure. And
Yeah, please don't.
You've asked for Jason Becker's report, so I'll give you that first, okay?
Okay.
And when I approach you, I'm going to hand this to you, and I just ask you to look at it silently by yourself,
Okay.
and then look up at me when you're done.
Okay.
Thank you. Some guy with cancer says, if it was my girlfriend and wife next door or wife next door, I'd take multiple violent felonies if they told me to change and pee in a cup. Thanks for the super chat.
I'm going to collect that from you if you don't mind.
The first report was the NFIRS report from my lieutenant.
Nobody's asking you anything yet. There's no
Was,
question on the table.
Jason Becker's report included in
Yes.
it as well?
Yep.
Having reviewed those documents, does that refresh your memory as to the medical history that was taken?
Yes.
And what can you tell us about that?
Just lists multiple sclerosis.
What is multiple sclerosis?
I believe it's a
He doesn't know.
neurodegenerative disease where the myelin sheathing of the
You forgot the Wikipedia
trying to think of the
definition?
word here, but
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
You know, I understand.
I'm sure you do. It's a disease.
It's a disease that's progressive and has neurological muscle control things involved with it,
And when you say progressive, that means it gets worse over time as you age?
as I understand it.
And that was the medical history you got from Karen Lee?
Correct.
I have nothing further.
All right. So, sir, you are all set. Thank you, Mr. Whitley. Your next witness, Mr. Lally?
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth call Mr. Jason Becker to the stand.
I just want to hear that last question one more time.
Involved with it,
And when you say progressive, that means it gets worse over time as you age?
as I understand it.
And that was the medical history you got from Karen Lee?
Correct.
I have nothing further.
All right. So, sir, you are all set. Thank you, Mr. Whitley.
Carrie's going to be the one that they explore his relationship with Carrie.
Please watch your step. Sure. You get there, please face that clerk, raise your right hand.
Okay, whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
First name is Jason. Last name is Becker. Becker.
And what do you do for work, sir?
I'm a firefighter paramedic, Canton Fire Department.
And how long have you been a member of the Canton Fire Department?
5.5 years.
And prior to that, what, if any, other employment did you have sort of within that same field?
I worked at Found Ambulance and South Shore Hospital.
How long did you work at each of those respective positions?
Found Ambulance was about 5 years. South Shore Hospital, approximately 3 years.
And with regard to South Shore Hospital, what is it that you did there?
I was a nursing assistant in the emergency room.
And with regard to your work as a firefighter paramedic for the Canton Fire Department, you a certified paramedic?
Yes.
And when did you first receive that certification?
October 2021.
And is that something that you receive, or when you receive that, is something that goes on in perpetuity, or is that something that you have a continuing educational component or recertification?
It's Con Ed education. Every 2 years, you have to recertify.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th, 2022 into January 29th, 2022. Were you working on that occasion?
I was.
And where were you assigned? I'm sorry. What type of shift were you working on that occasion?
What type of shift?
Yes, like what hour to what hour?
8 a.m. to 8 a.m., 24 hours.
So 8 a.m. on the 28th until 8 a.m. on the 29th.
Correct.
And where were you assigned on that day?
I was at Canton Station 2, Ambulance 2.
And who, if anyone else, was assigned with you to Ambulance 2 at Station 2 on that day?
Daniel Whitley, firefighter Daniel Whitley.
Now, at some point when you were working on the 29th, shortly after 6 a.m. or so, did you become aware of a call for station house number 1?
Yes.
And what, if anything, were you aware of as far as that earlier call?
As far as we know, there was a man down on the side of the road, initial dispatch. And I believe it was upgraded eventually to CPR in progress.
Now, at some point following that, approximately 6:41 a.m. or so, did you, your station house, get a dispatch to Fairview Road?
Yes.
And what, if anything, was that dispatch?
A psych eval, possible section 12.
And in addition to yourself and Firefighter Whitley in Ambulance 2, what, if any, other sort of vehicles or apparatuses were dispatched by your department to that call as well?
Canton Engine 3.
And if you know, who, if anyone, was on Canton Engine 3 at that time?
Lieutenant Greg Woodbury, firefighter Sam Park.
Now, with regard to the ambulance that you were in with Firefighter Whitley, what were sort of let me ask you this, between sort of call volume, what if any sort of policy or protocol is there as far as who does what on a particular call?
We switch off.
And so on this particular call that you were dispatched to Fairview Road, what were sort of each of your respective duties and responsibilities between yourself and Firefighter Whitley?
Firefighter Whitley was the driver at that point, and it was my tech, is what it's called. So the next patient would be mine.
And so as sort of you were the lead tech on this, is that correct?
Correct.
And so as far as the lead tech's role, what, if any, duties or responsibilities do you have in regard to writing a report?
It's my report. That'd be right.
May I approach the witness?
Yes.
With documents, just ask you to review that, look up to me.
The first report up here is the engines. Second one would be mine.
You recognize the first few pages of that as the engines report, and the last few are yours, correct?
Correct.
And that's your report with relation to this dispatch and this call, correct?
Correct.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I want the seat to introduce and admit as the next.
So both reports through this witness? Is there any objection?
Yeah, just take a look at the DA's copy. May we approach?
Okay. Bless you.
With that addendum, I would seek to introduce and admit that as the next exhibit.
Okay.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, can I return the report to the witness? for
Yes.
testimony? Now, sir, when you first sort of arrive in the area of 34, when you arrive in the area of Fairview Road, what, if anything, is it that you first observe upon your arrival?
Coming down the street or on scene?
Yes, coming up.
Coming down the street, see the live police lights. You can see the fire engine, and I believe I said it's one black SUV.
And where is it that you and the ambulance sort of park in reference to those other vehicles that you see?
I believe we parked. If the SUV was facing towards us, we parked to the left. I don't recall where the police cruiser was, though.
And when you first arrive there, who, if anyone, is it that you first speak with when you get there?
When we got out of the ambulance, I passed Officer Sarif and Officer Mulaney. They kind of briefed us, and then I walked over to the black SUV.
And when you walk over to the black SUV, who is it that you observe in that black SUV?
I saw two females.
And of those two females, do you see one of them in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you just identify as to where she's seated or an article of clothing that she's wearing?
Right over there, the jacket on.
That's the record reflect identification of the defendant.
Okay.
Now, with respect to the defendant, Ms. Reed, where within the vehicle is she when you first come up to the vehicle and observe?
When I remember, she was in the front passenger seat.
And what, if any, knowledge did you have as far as the defendant, Ms. Reed, and her relationship to the earlier call that ambulance 1 had been dispatched to?
Very little. I think we had gotten briefed that she was the wife of the previous patient.
Wife again.
And was that something that she had stated or something that somebody else had stated? Where does that awareness come
I
from?
believe it was one of the Canton police officers that said it.
I'm sorry, what was that answer?
It was one of the Canton police officers.
Okay.
Yeah. So the PD thought she was his husband or the wife also? Okay. All right. Go with that. Keep asking, Lally. What else do you want to know?
So when you walk up to the car, what is it that you say to her? Or what, if any, conversation did you have with Ms. Reed at that?
So I went up to the window and introduced myself and just kind of asked what was going on.
And how did she respond to that?
She was kind of, she was distraught. She was crying. She kind of told us that the statements she may have made, she didn't mean it because of the events that she had just gone through.
What, if
What?
anything, did she say about that?
The statements she had made, she didn't mean it because of what she had currently gone through. She was crying and distraught, but was she crying real tears? Notice how the other witness said she was crying, but not real tears, not actual tears. Take this back a second.
Read at that. And so when you walk up to the car, what is it that you say to her? Or what, if any, conversation did you have with Ms. Reed at that?
So she's sitting
so I
in a
went up
car.
to the window and introduced myself and just kind of asked what was going on.
And how did she respond to that?
She was kind of, she was distraught. She was crying. She kind of told us that the statements she may have made, she didn't mean it because of the events that she had just gone through.
What, if anything, did she say about that? If anything, did she say about what she had gone through?
That she had just done CPR on her husband.
And so she referred to him as her husband as well.
Yes.
And this conversation that you had sort of at the side of the SUV, is that through the door, through the window?
From what I recall, it was through the window.
And at some point, does the conversation move to the ambulance?
Correct.
About how long was the conversation at the vehicle before the conversation shifted to the ambulance?
5 to 10 minutes.
And as far as your dispatch for a psych or a section 12, correct?
Correct.
Can you explain to the jury sort of that process, just in general terms first, as far as what does that process entail?
And when we get on scene
Yes.
for a section,
Yes, please.
we go on scene, we kind of look at the environment, see what the environment's like, see if the patient's cooperative, uncooperative, what their demeanor is, if there's any obvious self-harm. If there's none, we kind of go up and talk to them, get a rapport, and ask them some basic triage questions.
And is that sort of the policy or the protocol or what you followed in this instance with Ms. Reed?
Correct.
Now, beyond what she had indicated to you initially, what, if anything, was she asking you during the course of your conversation with her once you were in the ambulance?
She kept asking if he was dead or could he be dead.
Is that something that she said once or more than once or something?
More than once.
And could you describe sort of the tone of her voice when she was saying?
It was pretty, it's kind of like it was a rapid kind of pressured speech. She was just a lot repetitive.
And as you were speaking with her, what, if any, observations did you make of her facial area?
She had blood on her face and her neck and her chin. Blood around her mouth, her neck and chin.
And so with regard to sort of any earlier suicidal statements, what, if anything, did she say in relation to that?
She said she made him because she just went through a traumatic event, seeing her husband dead. And she had no plan on acting on it.
Seeing her husband dead, she was told that he was viable. They were bringing him to the hospital. I'm so confused.
To a Section 12 call, what, if anything, are you doing as far as documentation goes with respect to vital signs, things like that?
Well, it depends on the situation. In a situation of misreads, I took a regular, just vital signs, pulse oximetry to see her heart rate. But for someone like a female psych patient, it's more verbal.
And as far as any of those sort of vital signs and things that you took, what, if anything, abnormal did you note in regard to that?
There's nothing too abnormal. Just the heart rate might have been a little bit high, but within normal range.
Could you please keep your voice up, sir? Thank you.
Sorry. With the vital signs, her heart rate was a little high. It was 98, but it was nothing concerning.
And during the time that you're having this conversation with her in the back of the ambulance, how would you describe her demeanor throughout?
She would have periods of calmness, and then other periods she would appear agitated because she didn't want to go to the hospital. But all in all, she was cooperative with us.
Now, at some point, she's cooperative, correct, and agrees to go?
Eventually, yes.
When you say eventually, was there some conversation related?
We kind of mentioned to her basically what a Section 12 is. And unfortunately, she'd have to come with us voluntarily or involuntarily.
So you're explaining the process to her, is that correct?
Correct.
Eventually, she agrees to go, correct?
Correct.
And as far as the transport goes, who, if anyone, is in the back of the ambulance with her during the transport period?
Me and Firefighter Whitley.
And who, if anyone, was driving the ambulance to the hospital?
Firefighter Park.
And which hospital did you transport Ms. Reed to?
We went to the Good Samaritan Hospital.
Now, during the course of transfer to the hospital or transport to the hospital, what, if anything else, did Ms. Reed say with reference to children?
She was talking about Mr. O'Keefe's children, and she was unsure, and she didn't know if she'd be able to take care of them. She was worried about that.
She was worried about that.
Yeah, she's worried about who would take care of the children if he was pronounced dead.
And what, if anything, did she say about herself in reference to the children?
She didn't think that she could take care of them on her own.
Now, as far as this other person or the patient from the earlier call, how did she refer to that person in relationship to yourself?
She was calling him husband.
She's calling him husband.
Reference to this particular.
There's the
reference
sighing
to Ms.
again.
Reed in this conversation, what, if anything, did she say in regard to the last time that she had spoken to who she called her husband?
She had said that they had gotten into an argument. She was sad because that was the last thing she had said to him was the argument, but she didn't go into detail on what the argument was about or what was said.
Okay.
Now, with regard to her speaking about sort of the children, what, if any, further conversation did either yourself or Firefighter Whitley have with her in regard to that?
With children?
Yes.
I don't recall.
The other female party that Ms. Reed was initially with in the vehicle when you first arrived, did you know who that was?
I don't know who she was.
And at any point in time, subsequent to that, did you learn who she was?
I did.
And who did you learn her to be?
She was Miss Carrie Roberts.
And with relation to your conversation with Ms. Reed on that day of January 29th, what, if anything, did she say about Ms. Roberts?
Objection.
Sustained.
Okay, so is this at the point where she's sitting in the car with Carrie Roberts? That he's having this conversation with Carrie Roberts? Lally's all over the place chronologically with this testimony. They're in the ambulance, they're at the hospital, and now he's talking to Carrie Roberts. Was Carrie Roberts in the hospital with her? I need to rewind a little bit because this is just, you want to talk about snarky? I can be snarky too. I can't believe that other last witness said that she was snarky. That is just, must be reading Twitter.
Subsequent to that, Reed was initially with in the vehicle when you first. The other female party that Miss Reed was initially with in the vehicle when you first arrived, did you know who that was?
I don't know who she was.
And at any point in time, subsequent to that, did you learn who she was?
I did.
And who did you learn her to be?
She was Miss Carrie Roberts.
And with relation to your conversation with Miss Reed on that day of January 29th, what, if anything, did she say about Miss Roberts?
Objection.
Sustained.
The regard to the sort of medical questions that you were asking, from those medical questions, what, if any, questions would you typically ask someone with relation to consumption of alcohol or drugs?
Well, part of the psych assessment, I asked if she had taken any drugs or alcohol, and she had denied it at that point.
Denied it. Well, how about she just said no? How about she just said no? I haven't taken any, but now he's saying she denied it to make it look like she was lying. She hadn't taken any drugs or alcohol, and she said no. She replied in the negative, not she denied it. Wow.
You had not, correct?
Correct.
Of alcohol or drugs.
Well, part of the psych assessment, I asked if she had taken any drugs or alcohol, and she had denied it at that point.
She said that she had not, correct?
Correct.
How about is she on any medications? Did you ask her that?
The observations that you testified to earlier in regard to her, and by her I mean Ms. Reed's demeanor, did that change at all during the course of your interaction with her, or was that consistent throughout?
Demeanor, as in
He doesn't know what demeanor is. Okay.
Rephrase question. Let me try and rephrase it. So, with regard to her demeanor throughout the course of your interaction with her, how would you describe that?
Whose demeanor? Who are we talking about? We talking about Carrie now? Are we talking about Karen now? Who are we talking about? Can we refer to, can you ask him who, Karen's demeanor? Or if you insist on calling her the defendant, talk about her as the defendant, but he's been all over the place with this. Are we talking about Carrie? Are we talking about Karen? Who are we talking about?
she was cooperative. Then she'd be calm, and then eventually she would kind of get a little agitated and repetitive questions. But she seemed distraught.
Now, with respect to the person she indicated was her husband, what, if any, questions did she ask either you or Firefighter Whitley or both in relation to him?
She was asking if he was dead, or could he be dead? Could he be dead? And she said, "Could I have hit him?"
Could he be dead? Is he dead? Did I hit him? As a
Is that
question.
something that she asked once or more than once?
It wasn't a lot. It was more of could he be dead? Could he be dead?
So somewhat repetitive, is that correct?
Correct.
Just one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to rewind that too.
Could he be dead? Could he be dead? And she said, "Could I have hit him?"
Could I have hit him? Okay.
Could he? Correct.
No, he was sitting right there with the last guy, and the last guy had a lot more to the story. Little embellishment, maybe. Little poetic license, if you will.
Sorry. Firefighter Becker, just my own clarification. You testified earlier that first arriving on scene and first spoke with Ms. Reed, she indicated that there was some statements that she said there were some statements that she did not mean, correct?
Correct. Suicidal statements.
And so, exactly. So my question is, that was in reference to the suicidal statements she had made prior to your arrival, correct?
Correct.
Not to any subsequent statements, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
He said,
All right, cross-examination.
Thank you, Rona. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You and I have met, right?
I believe so.
I wanted to go back to one piece of testimony that you offered on direct examination, if I may.
Sure.
You had, in response to a question from the prosecutor about the medical history and your question to Ms. Reed about whether she had had any alcohol to drink. I believe your answer today was she denied having drank alcohol the night before?
At the time that she was, I mean, she could drink. I don't know if she drank alcohol the night before, but at that time I asked if she had any drugs or alcohol, and she said no.
I'm sorry, if I just didn't hear.
Yeah,
the
you
answer.
need to keep your voice up, sir, or speak
Okay.
directly into
Sorry.
the microphone.
So I asked her if she had any drugs or alcohol, and she said no.
Oh, if she had any drugs.
Well,
or
if she
alcohol.
taken any drugs or alcohol, she said no.
Did you specify a time period?
I just assumed it'd be in the last few hours for the reason why we were there.
never assume, because you know what happens when you assume? You make an ass out of you and me. Who could tell me what TV show that's from? I assumed.
Any drugs?
Well,
or
if she
alcohol?
taken any drugs or alcohol, she said no.
Did you specify a time period?
I just assumed it'd be in the last few hours for the reason why we were there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Unsure if she had alcohol days prior, but for the reason why we were there.
The reason why you were there.
Okay. So was it your understanding that the two of you had an understanding of what you were asking?
Sure.
Objection, move to
Yeah,
strike.
yeah. So
Yeah.
the objection sustained.
Oh,
It's
I've
stricken.
got a
Ask
chuckle.
the question differently, Ms. Tianetti.
Thank you, Ronna. All right, so I guess with regard to your intent and your state of mind when you were asking that question, you were asking, had you taken any drugs or alcohol within the last few hours? That's what you meant to ask?
Objection.
So the objection sustained.
Why?
What did you specifically ask?
So when I ask a patient if any drugs or alcohol, I'm talking about at that point in time,
They don't know that.
but an hour before, 2 hours before, not
They don't know
days
that.
before, weeks before.
Okay,
So-
and this was at 6:40 in the morning,
Correct.
correct? Did you smell any alcohol on her at that time?
I did not.
Ah,
You would agree that she did tell you at some point that she had alcohol the night before, correct?
No.
All right. So this is now, what's today, May 3rd of 2024?
Correct.
And this happened back in January, on January 29th of 2022.
Correct.
You were interviewed by a Trooper Michael Proctor on February 14th of 2022. Do you recall that?
I recall meeting with him, yes.
And February 14th of 2022 would have been a little bit more than 2 weeks after January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Your memory of what Karen Reed told you about whether she had anything to drink the night before would have been much better on February 14th of 2022 when you were talking to Trooper Michael Proctor than it would be today, correct?
Correct.
Because your memory doesn't get better over time, correct?
Certain circumstances, sure.
All right.
certain circumstances. Okay.
With regard to whether Karen had indicated that she took any drugs, you told Trooper Proctor she said that she had not, correct?
Correct.
With regard to whether she had had alcohol the night before, you told Trooper Proctor on February 14th of 2022 that she did consume alcohol last night, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Why?
I'm
It's
going
in
to see a
statement.
sidebar on this. Please bring that.
What?
witness, please.
So he met with Proctor on February 14th of 2022, and apparently he told Proctor that Karen did not have any drugs or alcohol in her system, but did drink the night before. Apparently it's in the statement, but Judge Canoni wants to have a little sidebar about this. Exactly, Cassandra.
With your permission, I'll repeat the question.
Sure.
You told Trooper Proctor on February 14th of 2022 that Karen had told you that she did consume alcohol the previous night, correct?
If that's in his notes,
Oh,
Well, is your memory exhausted as to whether you told him that?
I don't recall.
If you saw his report with your statements in it, would that refresh your memory?
Sure.
uh-huh.
It's a two-page report. I'll give you both, actually. It's a two-page report. I'll give you both pages, but I have highlighted a line on the second page, so I would direct you to that. May I approach?
Yes.
Well,
And
this
take your
is
time reading
interesting.
it, sir.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
And
take
please
your
be
time reading
silent
it, sir.
yourself and look up at me when you're done.
You don't need to give the witness any clues or, I mean, I want to watch this because I want to see how long it takes him to read it. Because maybe he did not say that to Proctor, in fact, because on the stand right now, he said she did not tell him that she had any alcohol the night before. Was your memory better then or is your memory better now? Did he write something in the statement that you did not say? Did you sign this statement? Was the statement video recorded in any way? No? Was it audio recorded in any way? Did you handwrite a statement for him and then sign it and then he typed it up later? Or did you not tell him that? Is that statement false? TikTok.
So I did say.
So, Mr. Becker, a couple of things. Wait for a question,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but
Sorry.
also
Sorry.
you have to keep your voice up.
Okay.
I'm close to you and I'm having trouble hearing you. Most
Okay.
of the jurors are further away.
We've heard him
The
the
way
best.
this
out
works
of-
is I have to collect that from you and then ask you a question, okay?
So
If I may approach you on.
Yes.
We can hear him just fine.
Having reviewed that document, does that refresh your memory as to whether or not Karen Reed, or strike that? Having reviewed that report, does that refresh your memory as to the fact that you?
Does that refresh your memory?
Does that refresh your memory?
it does.
Okay, and so did you tell Trooper Proctor on February 14th that Karen Reed had told you on January 29th that she had consumed alcohol the night before that?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
So he did tell Proctor that, he's saying.
Is it fair to say that when you were listening to her talk at times, that her speech was very rapid?
Correct.
And particularly when she had said the words, is he dead? Is he dead? She would repeat it repetitively, correct?
Correct.
And she was fixated on that, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to the last interaction that she spoke about with whom you thought she said her husband, she didn't give you any detail about that, correct?
She did not.
You don't know whether it was an in-person communication?
That wasn't my position to ask more details about that.
Oh, and I'm not criticizing you, sir. I'm just trying to get to what your knowledge was in terms of
Right.
information you got from her. So she didn't specify that it was an in-person communication, correct?
No.
She didn't specify as to whether it was a phone conversation?
She did not.
She didn't specify whether it was a text message exchange back and forth?
She did not.
And she didn't specify whether it was an angry voicemail that she left, correct?
She did not.
That's the argument that they're referring to, that he referred to.
No further questions. Thank you.
Just one moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. All right, Mr. Becker. Thank you.
And this witness is
You
excused.
can leave that right where it is. Thank you, sir.
Well, well, well. You can never
Your next
tell.
witness, Mr. Lally?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Sure.
Well, well, well. You can never tell. Anybody know that song? Sunny side of the street is dark.
With another witness, Does it make sense that rather than starting with another witness, figure it's a Friday afternoon, it's been a long week for you all, we'll excuse you at this point. So
Hey.
please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case,
That's right.
disregard it and let us know. And have a great weekend. Monday will be a full day. We'll see you first thing Monday night.
Please rise for the jury. Jury's right this way.
She's seething. She is seething, and I would be too. Why are we here? Because this is Shakedown Street, my friends. This is what we call shakedown. Well, you can never tell. Sunny side of the street is dark. Wonder if they're going to do a little argument or something.
Maybe seated.
I think there's an exhibit in the witness stand.
Nothing shaking on Shakedown Street. It used to be the heart of town.
All right, because I've decided that it makes more sense to do exhibits the old-fashioned way because it's simply not working out.
It's the other way.
My suggestion is that we take what we have that have actually been introduced, because I know you pre-marked nearly 600 exhibits. They have not been introduced into evidence. So we have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 14, 18, and there are additional that are in the 300s and 200s. So what I would like to do is take all of these, and I know Madam Court Reporter has been great about sticking around all late during the week to pre-mark things. This is more important to me that we get the record straight from this point. I would prefer the jurors to have the exhibits in order and not have numbers 200 and 300 in where they should be 15 and 16. So what I would like you to all do is take a look at the exhibits that have actually been introduced, their prior numbers. If you have referred to them by their prior numbers, I will permit you for the rest of the trial to say previously referred to as.
You don't just go renumber exhibits while the trial is already in progress. You can't do that. You are going to screw up the record. You're going to screw up the record on appeal. What she doesn't want is she doesn't want the jury to know that, that the exhibits are 200 and then the next one after that is 217. So there's 16 that she didn't allow into evidence. That's ridiculous. You don't start renumbering exhibits while the trial is already ongoing. Am I insane? Tom says, what did Proctor text his high school friends? I hope she, what? Yeah, kills herself. That's what he said to them. So they got to back that up.
308, but now exhibit 15 until you feel you don't need to do that anymore. So it means things are going to have to be renumbered. So, Madam Court Reporter, was there anything else we needed to discuss on this? Is there anything else you need from the lawyers?
Don't cry, Eliza. Don't cry.
Okay. So, I don't want to use your name. You've got a list of everything, and Mr. McDermott's got a list of everything that's been introduced. Do you need me to do this, or is this something you can all do with Madam Court Reporter? And I want to come out and make sure it's right. All right, so why don't you all take 10 minutes to see if you can work this through. I'll come out at the end of 10 minutes, see what you have, and we'll make sure the record's straight. Does that make sense to everybody?
It does. The only thing that I would ask to add to that, Your Honor, is in conformity with the court's ruling as far as redaction to the run sheets and the run reports. I'm not sure if they've been stickered or not, but there are medical records with regard to both the victim and the defendant that would be in there, and I would ask for them to either be marked for identification or taken out at this point. Ms. McLaughlin indicated they haven't been marked yet, so I would just ask to sort of retrieve.
All right, so that's sort of the second point. I assume there are many pages of medical records, and one of the things I told you this morning is if records are going to be introduced subject to redactions, those redactions have to be done before they're introduced. It's going to take some time, so you have to be, if you're not in agreement, then you need to tell me what you're not in agreement over, and I'll have to decide it, but they need to be redacted beforehand, just because this is a long trial. I don't want it to take any longer than it necessarily has to be. And we have to make sure all of the exhibits are in order, especially if they do end up numbering in the hundreds. So, all right, so you've factored that into your schedule. We've got many days that we won't be in session. It seems like a good use of council's time to redact records and talk. If you need additional time and we need to cut into the evidence, I'd prefer not to, but I need to know. All right. So I have received from the Commonwealth all of the videos that I requested. I received a flash drive today. When can I get the videos? I thought I was clear yesterday. Apparently I wasn't. So when can I get all of the videos that the defendants intend to introduce? I had hoped to look at them over the weekend.
Dig. That was a dig.
We can do, it's not a matter of getting them onto a flash drive. That's quick. It's just a matter of getting them to the court. So I would invite the court to direct us how, if you want to use the weekend, let us know. We work on Saturdays and Sundays.
So you can't do it today? You can't do it before you leave? I don't think your IT person's here, right?
I might
Oh,
be able to.
if you can do it before you leave, if he can just download it onto a flash drive, that would be
Or
great. Do you want to
wait.
go talk to him, see how long?
You might be able to
Yeah,
do that.
We may be able to do that.
Why don't you talk to him?
Yes. Yes.
All right. That
We won't leave until we get
Welcome, Heather.
that would be great. And Ms. Gianetti, yesterday you did say that you'd also give me some idea on why you think they're coming in.
Sure.
Okay, so if you have that, that would be great.
Yeah.
All right.
You I just want to make sure I'm very clear about what the court would like. We provided the double videos, the ones that we had put the good and Seraph cameras together. The court wants every single video that we intend to produce
Yes.
for the rest of trial.
Yes.
Okay, understood.
All right, and that's what I requested from both of you. I received, Ms. Gilman, tell me if I'm wrong, but Mr. McDermott handed me a flash drive today that said this was all the Commonwealth's video exhibits. Yes.
And that was after we met this morning, correct? Okay.
All right, so that'd be great. I just, I want to know what's on them. I was surprised yesterday, and
That'd be
I shouldn't be
great.
surprised.
That'd be great.
All right, so I'll come out after you remark the exhibits. Do you need a break before then, Madam Court Reporter? Mr. McDermott? All right, thanks.
Court, all rise, please.
Are they going to come back? You guys that are ahead, let's just see where they are now. Oh, looks like, well, I don't know. The fan is back. The fan is back. It says court is on a break, so I guess they're coming back. Madam Court Reporter, do you need a break? Please tell us, Madam Court Reporter, if you need a break. Please, Madam Court Reporter, do you need a break? Do you need a break today? Well, that was interesting. There's some interesting stuff here today. I'm going to pull up a picture that somebody sent me of the acquaintances. We heard we heard Katie McLaughlin testify that they are acquaintances, but here's the picture that somebody just sent me that may prove otherwise. Let's see, where is it? Here's the picture of Katie McLaughlin and Caitlin Albert drinking beers. But they're just acquaintances. Just acquaintances. It's out there. It's public. And there they are. They're just acquaintances, but they're at the beach, but it's not a vacation. It was just a day trip to the beach, but she is not sure what beach this was at. And we have no time frame on when this is at. So there's that. What say you? Should that picture have been allowed into evidence? I think it's over. It says we're on a break, but I don't think they're coming back. I don't know. Let me know if you know otherwise. Well, tell me, my friends, what do you think was the most interesting part of the day? Ooh. We heard from a bunch of witnesses today. Thank you, Heidi, for the Venmo. She says, I appreciate all of the countless hours that you spend working on these cases. You are so appreciated. Thank you. You are also appreciated as well. And Shauna, thank you for the Cash App, and for and also Mandolin Win, thank you for the very generous donation. Thank you so very much. And Elizabeth, thank you for thanking me for the coverage on Venmo. And I want to make sure I address everyone, whether they send a super chat or send another way, so that they are also thanked. Lynn, thank you. She says, you are amazing. Thank you, Lynn, for the Venmo, and Jody for buying me 3 matcha lattes. I appreciate that so much. There's not enough caffeine in the world for this trial. Not enough caffeine in the world. Talk to me, my friends. Talk to me. Somebody said, wait for us. Just have faith. Yannetti and Jackson know what they're doing. Somebody said, why no serious cross of the last witness? He made a lot of claims. I thought the defense would attack. And I'm assuming that you are talking about Daniel Whitley, the paramedic who said that she was snarky, and that he apparently knows Carrie Roberts very well. That he also apparently was across the street neighbors from John O'Keefe. So I think rather than decimate him, the plan is, or may be, to talk to Carrie Roberts about that and her relationship with him, and whether she's had any conversations with him since the date that Officer O'Keefe was killed. Scott says, Madam Melanie, thanks for the ride on the bus. That reminds me of another Grateful Dead song. The bus came by and I got on. That's when it all began. There was Cowboy Neil at the wheel on the bus to Never Never Land. And that's where we're going. Seems like Never Never Land. Rachel definitely probably has some upcoming folks that are more credible. His statements were sus. Yeah, I thought they were sus also. She didn't have a cross on that day, says Nicole White. She didn't have a cross on the day they took that picture at the beach. Well, I don't know. Is that her in the front? I thought that was her in the back. I don't know who's who in that picture. It's hard to see if she has a necklace on. Tanya, if they're all innocent, why didn't her sister immediately notify her? I don't know what we're talking about. If there was some side chatter going on in the chat that I didn't see. Gibbons Largine, there's not enough vodka in the world for this trial. My goodness, this judge, and I don't recall. Bob G, the internet is forever, as your dad always said. Your dad seems like a very smart man, and we try and teach our children well, and we try and teach them that the internet is not a place to put anything that you wouldn't want your mother or anyone else to see, like a college admissions person or a teacher or anyone else's parent. It is forever. We know that. Eliza, this judge is on a real power trip, in my opinion. Sure, big media being there has gone to her head. I'm going to run out of Klonopin, says VK, sir. But Jackie says, I heard the defense has lots of evidence on witnesses and connections with witnesses. I like AJ with daycation, says McDickles. Yeah, daycation. That is a good one. Jen did call Julie. Yes, Jen did call Julie twice. Not Julie. Her sister Nicole, who lives inside the house. Twice from the road, I believe. Oh, who's making fun of me? Darling Carrie Melanie was doing yoga and the jury got back from the field trip before I was ready. I know, a little mess, but whatever. I don't care. It's not about me. Definitely not about me. In the chats, they are playing Somebody That I Used to Know song. That's a good one. That is a good one. Somebody that I used to know. Nicole says, I'm just waiting for the McDowell's to take the stand. I'm here for it. Yep. OMG. Probably the picture was in front of Bev's house. Oh, that would be crazy. Somebody sent me something that they shut down the road before. Police shut down the road when the jury was going on the site visit to 34 Fairview. Nicole says, I'm shaking. I can't believe that picture. And her saying she doesn't know her well. Same verse, same as the first. Proctor has not taken the stand yet. Nope. Tickle says, we drink holy water in Boston, Irish whiskey, so we can cope. So we can cope. So we saw Katie McLaughlin on the stand this morning first, and she was cross-examined about her relationship or lack thereof with Caitlin Albert, who lives at 34 Fairview, or did at the time. And she said that they were just acquaintances, and she went to high school with a girl named Caitlin Albert. But then there was a sidebar about some photographs that the defense has uncovered from social media where they seem to be more than acquaintances. The judge would not let the photos in, but did let them a question about the photos. And I think they did a real good job of getting out the fact that they may just be more than acquaintances, in addition to the fact that Kevin Albert, brother of Brian of brother. It's been a long day. Brother of Brian arranged for her to go in and see Proctor the next day. I don't know if court's coming back, but I'll keep it up. I will keep it up. After Katie McLaughlin, Greg Woodbury was up next, and he was a let's see, I'll go back to my banner. He was a lieutenant paramedic from Canton Fire Department. And he wasn't really paying attention to them. I remember him. He said there were civilians on scene, but he wasn't really paying attention to them because he thought that Katie was going to get the backstory on what had happened at the scene. And he noticed right eye bruising and scratches, he said, on the forearm. And somebody said to him that Karen said she hit him. We know that there are 10 women and 7 men on the jury. That he wasn't really paying attention to anything because he was treating her, or he was treating John, I guess, in the back of the ambulance. This testimony is all over the place because Lally is all over the place. Then he went back to pick up Karen Reed on the Section 12 call. And he went back to the scene, and the police were still on the scene. And he observed her. He says she was very distraught, very upset, that she was resistant to going to the hospital, but that he tried to convince her to go to the hospital because he said that if she agreed to go, it would be easier for her to get out. He said that. So that was interesting. In fact, Yannetti said to him, it was kind of like you said to her, we can do this the hard way or the easy way, and you wanted her to take the easier way. And he said, yeah. And then he said she was grief-stricken, she was hysterical, and he's the one who said she was crying, but he didn't see any actual tears. That was Greg Woodbury. He also said that she kept repeating, is he dead? Is he dead? That's when they showed the photo of Officer O'Keefe's right arm. That was admitted into evidence. And there was some talk of lividity. And he said it looks like bruising on the bottom of the body. It's not actual bruising. It's not actual trauma. It just looks that way because that's where the blood pools, in the lower sections of the body. Somebody said, tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. That's a great other song reference. Then Daniel Whitley was up next. Daniel Whitley was a firefighter and paramedic of Canton at Canton, the Canton Fire Department. And he also was on the Section 12 run. He was a paramedic at Canton Fire Department, and he's the one who ran his mouth, essentially. He ran his mouth. So it came out that he happened to know John O'Keefe because they lived across the street from each other. Although he said they never spoke because when he moved in, he had 2 little kids and his wife was pregnant. It also came out that he knows Carrie Roberts. So that was interesting. We don't know how he knows her or how well he knows her, but I'm sure Carrie Roberts will be questioned about that. He also said that Karen kept referring to Officer O'Keefe as her husband. That was the first witness who said that Karen O'Keefe was talking about John O'Keefe as if John O'Keefe was her husband. We all know they were not married. We all know that we've never heard anybody say that Karen referred to him as her husband. And he said that she kept saying, if my husband dies, I don't want to be alive anymore. But he thought that that was normal grieving things to say. And he said she kept repeating that. I don't want to be alive anymore if my husband dies. So she wanted to know if he could be alive after he had been out in the snow for several hours with only light clothing. And he tried to reassure her by telling her some stories about other people who had hypothermia, who actually did survive. And he said he was trying to give her hope. Several times he said, I was trying to give her hope. I told her about this kid that fell in the river. And, we were able to save him. So he kept saying he was trying to give her hope. This all happened in the back of the ambulance. And Jason Becker, he said, was with him during that time. So Jason Becker was the next witness to testify, but I still want to talk about what this guy had to say, because he was running at the mouth, this Daniel Whitley. He was running at the mouth. And he also said that she was crying about having to take care of the kids, that she didn't know how she could take care of the kids if he was dead or if he died. And that he kept saying to her, you can do this. It's not as hard as it seems. So he was trying to give her hope about that as well. And then he said something to her, well, it seems like you have a strong support system, because look, all these people came with you to look for your husband in the snow, or something to that effect. And she said, do you know Carrie Roberts? And he said, yes. And she said, well, if you knew Carrie Roberts, you wouldn't say that. And he said he was taken aback by that. He was taken aback by that because he knew Carrie Roberts from town and from the Facebook, the Park Meadows neighborhood. She lived around the corner, and she would get the fire truck to come to the block party. Carrie lives around the corner from me, he said, and he's known her for a long time. He also said that many people, including him, I assume, well, but we're not supposed to assume, but in the Park Meadows neighborhood, people looked up to him, thought he was a great guy, knew that he adopted those children, and that's why he knew. When she started talking about the kids, he said that's when he knew who she was referring to. It was Ponkapog, not Park Meadows. Ponkapog? Not Park Meadow. Okay. Ponkapog. Okay. I don't know how to pronounce that, Bradford, but I'm going to take your word for it. I'll look it up. Ponkapog. He said that he was in the ambulance with her for 20 to 25 minutes where he was giving her support during that time. But he said that her tone went from despondent to snarky. Snarky. He actually said snarky. And he did say that she was, her emotions were all over the place. Ponkabong? Oh, okay, good. Yay, me. Ponkabog. That she was going from despondent, I'm trying to use his exact words because I don't want to misspeak. Despondent to snarky. There was an objection to that. And at the hospital, he brought, her to the ER. And at the ER, she was asking if she could see her husband, he said. And then he went in to talk to the emergency room personnel to see if she could see her husband, John O'Keefe, which if he lived across the street from him, he would have known they weren't married. But I don't know. That was a little fugazi, as we like to say. And they asked him if, she would be upsetting the life-saving measures. And he said she'd probably be upset either way. So he was the reason that she could not see John O'Keefe in the hospital. That was my takeaway from that. He's the reason that she was prevented from seeing him during which may have been his last moments, because he was not pronounced until 7:50, I believe. But I don't know what time she was brought in to the hospital, because they didn't talk about time at all. And he said that during the 10 minutes that he saw her, she was giving the nurses a hard time. She was giving the nurses a hard time because she didn't want to put on a gown or pee in a cup. So there's that. Then on cross, Yannetti asked him if it would be important to ask her medical history while they were in the ambulance. And he said, yes, it would be. And he said, well, did you ask her medical history? Do you remember what it was? And he was like, no, because all of a sudden he had selective amnesia. And maybe he showed him a document. I don't recall, but he said, did you know that she had multiple sclerosis? And he said, yes. And then he said, do you know what multiple sclerosis is? And he started reciting like a Wikipedia definition. And then he couldn't remember. It was odd. And he's, I really don't know. And that was kind of it for him on Cross. And a lot of people thought they should have done more with him on Cross, but that guy, I felt that he was uncontrollable. There would have been no telling what he would have said. So it was probably a good decision to not let him dig any more holes, or, having not been deposed, you sometimes don't know what a witness will say. And this guy seemed to just there was a lot of volunteering going on during his direct testimony. He was volunteering a lot of information. And Lisa said he came off as very protective of his Canton peeps. Yeah. So if there's any testimony that you're going to go back and watch, I suggest you go back and watch Whitley's testimony. And then the final witness that we heard from today was Jason Becker, who was in the back of the ambulance with Whitley. And he went also on the Section 12 call to go pick up Karen at the scene. And he said that he went to talk to her in the car, and she was in the car with Carrie Roberts, sitting in the car, I guess, before they came together. And he went to go over there to see what was going on and what was happening. He said she was crying. She was distraught that she had just done CPR on her husband. So this is witness number 2, I believe, who's now saying, if you're keeping count, witness number 2, who's now saying that Karen referred to John as her husband. And he said he saw blood around her neck and chin. And she kept saying, is he dead? Could he be dead? Is he dead? Could he be dead? Is he dead? Could he be dead? That she seemed very worried about the children, who would take care of them, and she could not think she could do it on her own. So that jives with Whitley's testimony, because they were together the entire time in the back of that ambulance with Karen. And that Jason Becker said that Karen said that she was sad because the last thing that she said to John was that they had an argument, but she didn't say what the argument was about. And then on Cross, he said, well, you don't know what that argument was, do you? Was it by text? Was it by voicemail? Was it in person? And he's had to say, I don't know, because she didn't even say what this argument was about. So she was sad about that, he says. And then later he learned that Carrie Roberts was the one in the car with Karen. He did not know at the time. And then he said, he asked her if she had taken any drugs or alcohol. And he said she denied it at that point. He didn't say her answer was no. He said she denied it. And on Cross, Yannetti said, did you, nail that down to a time frame? And he kind of said, he said, did she smell of alcohol? And he said, no. And then he said something like, well, I assumed that she would know that I meant in the last 3 hours or so, the last few hours on the drugs and alcohol question. So that kind of impeached him. He said, did you smell any alcohol on her? He said, no. During Cross. But on direct, he was asked her demeanor, and he said she was cooperative and calm. And then eventually she became agitated. And she kept asking repetitive questions. Could he be dead? Could he be dead? Could I have hit him? Could I have hit him? And there was some testimony that she did not mean any suicidal statements that she may or may not have made. Could I have hit him? Could he be dead? Could he be dead? And then he was cross-examined with Proctor's statement. He met with Proctor on February 14th of 2022, which was over 2 weeks later. And he told Proctor, or it's in Proctor's statement, that she did drink the night before. But on direct and Cross, he said she denied having any alcohol. So that's interesting. But he claims he did tell Proctor that because he said, and another witness said this too. Well, if it's in your record, I guess it's correct. In the statement, I guess I'll defer to the statement. Seems like anytime Proctor is mentioned, that's what happens. People all of a sudden, or all of a suddenly, I had a friend that used to say, remember that they did say that originally, but that's not what they testified to. Christina, didn't an earlier EMT say the same drowning story? I don't recall. It's hard when I'm doing this and I'm listening to the testimony and listening to you guys, and then I go back and watch it later. So you guys point out in the chat if an earlier EMT might have said something about the same drowning story. What say you? What say you? I don't think they're coming back to court. And I think that even if they do, it's been a long day and I don't really think they're going to say much of anything else. So I think we're going to see each other back on Monday morning, nice and early, around 9 a.m. for a full day of testimony. Thank you, Lefty, for your super chat. How many times have you had to turn Grant down for a date? He seems obsessed. I don't know. I think his girlfriend is Lindsay, and that's why he's so angry at me. Because he thinks I leaked some documents about this woman that I don't even know, have never met, have no personal vendetta against, and don't quite frankly even care about at all. But yeah, this is the Twitter nonsense from what they're telling me. And he was vicious about it. I don't know. He's obsessed with a lot of things. One of them happens to be me at this point. So wackadoo. Oh, Broken Baker. Well, hi, Broken Baker. Coming to us all the way from, you're in the Netherlands or right? Broken Baker is going to fight me. We're going to have a throwdown over Grant. Oh my. Broken Baker, anything else that you want to add to this? This has been a long Denmark. Thank you. I thought so. I was going to say Denmark. Denmark. That's awesome. It's like not that late for you now, right? What, 10:30 p.m.? Somebody says he's from Germany, but he says he's from Denmark, so I'm going to go with him. Don't let him lie. Don't let him lie. Oh, somebody says from Germany. I stop. I can't. You guys, I just can't. Broken Baker does great coverage on this as well, and he's been covering it for a very long time too. Right? It feels like we've been yelling into a closet, right? Broken Baker, this case is so loco. No one says the same thing. It is 22:30. That is the time over there in Denmark right now. Hope Proctor has to move far away, Steph says, when everyone realized he proctored their reports. Yeah, it was crazy. I'm sure the Commonwealth is going to, or the people on the Commonwealth side is going to chalk this up as a win today. But I think that there's still a lot more to go. And I don't know. That guy kind of wanted to insert himself in the story, I felt like. I mean, tell me if you're sitting on the jury, what you think. Hello, Maria. Broken Baker is here. He's also a creator on YouTube who's been talking about this case, and he is Danish. He lives in Denmark, and he has been covering this case for quite some time. So if you are as well, you may want to go check him out. Jill says maybe she was referring to him as her husband because she thought it would get her in to see him. That's interesting. I'd like to know if anybody knows Karen and knows if Karen has ever referred to John as her husband. I don't know. Hi, Happy Chick. Please address Bev wanting all the videos. Is this normal? Yeah, she should have all the exhibits, and if she wants to review them all over the weekend, that would probably help speed things up so that she knows what they're about. She knows what's coming. She wants them all downloaded, I guess, onto one thumb drive, so she shouldn't have to have multiple devices and multiple things to try and find them on. I did not know. Just saw a post that Caitlin Albert and Katie McLaughlin ran track together in high school. Yep, we talked about that earlier. Yeah. Parker's going to need a proctologist after all this. He's getting, you guys are funny. All right. Thanks, you guys, to the moderators for keeping it classy, for being amazing. It's been a long day. I know it's been a long time since I've seen your something. It's been a long time. If you can name that tune in the band. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to come back Monday morning. I'll put it up probably Sunday night. So just, keep on keeping on, my friends. Oh, they're off on Network TV. They went on to something else. So forget about that. Hit the like on the way out, says Broken Baker. And thank you so much. It has been a long, great day. Thank you, Rochella. I know that you guys have been hanging in there all day. And my mods are the best on YouTube, and they are amazing. So thank you to my mods. Thank you to my viewers. Please hit the like button. It helps get the stream out there. It helps the algorithm in some way. I'm not really sure, but that's what they tell me. And if you would be so kind to subscribe, just hit the button below. It's free. Hit the bell so you know when I'm going live next. But we know for sure it's going to be for Monday's testimony. Everybody have an amazing, amazing weekend. And remember, my friends, just remember, be cool, be kind, be classy. It's not hard. Really, it is so not hard. Comments also help the algorithm later. So peace out. Keep on keeping on. And I will see you guys on Monday, bright and early. Peace.